Roll call. How are you going to do roll call?
Oh, am I?
Oh, are you doing it? Okay, all right.
Here.
Thompson,
Here.
Leonard,
Here.
Elkin,
Here.
online, just so you're aware, we have Ben Hitchcock and then Bethany also on. That is who's on the side.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not able to hear who just spoke.
Sorry.
She doesn't have a microphone.
Yeah, she did that was our assistant, or our deputy clerk. She was just doing the roll call. And all council are here with the exception of Rick Van Barcom. All right, so the first order on the agenda was a closed session to discuss the police administrative assistant. Ms. Escrow has requested that the discussion not be held in closed session, but rather an open session. So I don't believe I need a motion to go into closed session. So we can drop down to item number 2, which is the open session for the item number 1.
Good evening, City Council and people that are here from the community and from the police department. We're here today because of the termination of Bethany Escrow. She was terminated recently and she has appealed that termination to the panel here tonight for a wrongful termination. Ms. Escrow was terminated for insubordination, refusal or failure to obey legitimate orders from a supervisor, insulting behavior towards a supervisor, unauthorized absence, making false or malicious statements concerning other employees, supervisors, or the city, and failure to exercise good judgment or being discourteous in dealing with fellow employees and the general public. What began this issue was on or around May 4th, it was brought to the chief's attention that certain posts were being made on Facebook by a poster called City Watch. We assume it's City Watch. It's CTY Watch. Could also be County Watch. So we're not entirely sure what the abbreviation is for. But that is the individual that was making posts. And the posts appeared to be taken from pictures from the bulletin board in the outside hallway. When that was first brought to the chief's attention, he went to video footage that sits right outside of the bulletin board where the public comments and public postings are routinely placed. And upon watching this video, he saw, Ms. Escrow come out and post the posting that ended up on Facebook. And what it entailed was another closed session meeting for the council, and the comment on Facebook to the effect of there's an awful lot of this going on in reference to closed session meetings. The particular closed session was what was posted on the meeting minutes was salary discussions within the police department. Justifiably so, something you'd want to keep private, right? But this is nevertheless the post. And Miss Escrow is quite clearly on the camera, the person taking a photograph of this post that's on the bulletin board. When questioned about this, in the chief's opinion, she was evasive. She was avoiding answering the question, which led to, in terms of a police investigation, probable cause. This seemed to be abnormal. So the chief entered into an investigation of Ms. Escrow and her activity and possible connection to the city watcher who's making these posts on Facebook. And it can easily be interpreted by people reading these Facebook posts that they're making comments that are detrimental not only to the city of Amory, but detrimental to the police department. And if those comments, in fact, were tied to an employee of the city or an employee of the police department, it would be grounds for termination. The chief didn't assume that this was Ms. Escrow posting this. He was conducting an investigation. During this investigation, Ms. Escrow escalated, became agitated, continually avoided the conversation. We're going to show you this interview. We're going to allow Mr. Chief Hansel to speak for himself. And then we're going to show you the body cam footage from that investigation interview. So you'll see with your own two eyes, hear with your own two ears exactly what was said and how these questions were either answered or avoided. Now, following that interview, Chief Hansel came out and wanted to express again the need for confidentiality and to mention that this includes text messages or Facebook posts. Just wanted to be clear on that issue. As he's approaching her to do this, he notices she's shutting off the light. She's packing up her lunch. She's putting things into her purse. He says, "Are you leaving?" She says, "Yes, I'm leaving. You'll hear from my attorney." This is the middle of the day, folks. She didn't ask for permission to leave the job. She didn't have prior permission to leave the job. This wasn't a vacation day. She didn't have PTO scheduled. This was just leaving in the middle of the day. And given all the other things that had been going on with the investigation and where this was likely heading, potentially heading, the act of leaving in the middle of the day was the end of this. And that's when the termination took place. It's as simple as that. Someone leaving in the middle of a shift after directly being ordered to go back to their desk and complete the rest of the day, that's insubordination. That's an unexcused absence. Those are very clear and it's on the video. That's as simple as this termination gets. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. I raised the issues about the bulletin board just because it's background. It's what opened the investigation. But at the end of the day, that's not what took place for the termination to be there. That investigation wasn't done. It might have turned out that there was no connection between the Facebook posts and Ms. Escrow. But that we won't know because Ms. Escrow's own actions that led to the termination, not any of this other stuff that's going on. That's background information at this point after she walked off the job. That's our opening statement. That's how we see this case. As far as how the panel would like to handle me questioning Chief Hansel, whether he needs to come to the podium to talk or stay right where he's seated, I leave that to the panel.
I think it would be beneficial for both of you to have microphones. Just so Bethany's lawyer can hear everything, so.
So,
Well, can I make a statement here now? Thanks.
Yeah.
So we've heard that this is as simple as it is that Miss Escrow supposedly packed up her things, said, "I'm leaving, I'll hear from my attorney," and that's the actual basis here. But we don't see that as simple as it is in this document here. There is 1 charge, 2 charge, 3 charge, 4 charge, 5 charges, 6 charges, 7 charges, 8 charges on this document. And the 4th one on here is unauthorized absence. So they are the ones who wrote this complaint, nobody else. This police chief is the one who terminated Miss Escrow and nobody else. And that this document is not as simple as it needs to be. There's nothing in this document that says what the facts are. This is the first time that we're hearing of it. And so this is why I'm raising and bringing this to your attention here, that they're now they wrote up this large document. This taking a picture on the bulletin board we submit is not a sideshow, it's the show. And apparently this police chief has a problem with people making public statements about him on Facebook. And he investigates that. He just heard that this police chief used his police powers to investigate a statement about him on Facebook. That's not trivial. That's serious. We're going to just pass along the First Amendment violations. We're just going to focus here on the reason. This is for background, as this gentleman just stated, but we submit again that it's the real show, is that this police chief is using police time, police money, investigating my client here, an employee of the city, because he's threatened by a Facebook post. We're all here tonight because this gentleman is threatened by a Facebook post. You know what adults do? Adults pick up their trousers, they put on a big smiley face, and they go to work and they serve the people that they're paid to serve. That's what big boys do. They don't spend their time investigating people for their free speech comments. And this is an area that they've admitted is public. They've admitted that they have no proof who wrote this statement, because it doesn't matter. What really matters is that the chief is insulted. This is not a termination, plain and simple. This is a grown man losing his temper and costing the taxpayers a lot of money. This is kind of embarrassing, and because it should be. We brought him up from Milwaukee, is what I understand happened. And here we are 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in. He's terminated somebody because somebody, he doesn't know who, supposedly made a Facebook post. And after he has him, well, let's see how he acted in this interrogation, because I can't wait to see it. And we call it interrogation because that's apparently what they say it is. He was using his law enforcement powers because his feelings were hurt. And that's what the city of Amory is paying for, and that's what the city of Amory is getting. So we submit that it's time for everybody to grow up here and recognize where the problem is coming from. And it certainly isn't Miss Escrow. It's this chief, and I think everybody in this room knows it. I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
With that, I'll proceed to calling Chief Hensel for questioning. Okay, Chief, why don't you tell us, state your full name for the record and your occupation?
Stephen J. Heinzel, as police chief of the city of Amory.
And where, what's your, give us your address.
104 Maple Street, Suite C, Amory, Wisconsin.
And how long have you been the police chief here in Amory?
It's January 30th.
And as police chief, are you also a supervisor?
Yes.
Are you an administrator?
Yes.
When it comes to management of employees within the police department, whose job is that?
My job.
So if you've got an employee that might be engaging in conduct that's detrimental to the police department, whose job would it be to look into that?
My job.
Would you consider that the same investigation as if, say, you were looking at someone that's potentially a heroin dealer?
I don't understand what you mean.
Is this a criminal investigation, or is this an employer investigation into activity within your department?
It's an employer investigation.
Okay, so when you just heard Miss Escrow's attorney make an allegation that you were using police time to pursue something on a personal level. What precipitated this investigation into Miss Escrow?
I got a phone call from Ben Jansen regarding.
Who's Ben Jansen? I'm sorry.
He's our treasurer.
Okay, so you get a call from someone who's part of the city council. Okay, please go on.
And he said he had some that I should take a look at, and so I proceeded downstairs, and he showed me some a Facebook post that was taken outside of the police lobby, and so I talked with him a little bit, and then he said that he was notified from Taylor Larson.
And who's Taylor Larson?
Back over there.
And what's her role with the city? I'm sorry.
Clerk.
Okay.
And so this being possibly was a city employee that was involved in this, was my duty to investigate.
So what about the post led you to believe that this was a city employee involved?
Was taken right outside the police lobby. So then I did investigation, and I checked into the cameras, and I saw it was Miss Escrow who took the photo.
Before we get into seeing the video camera, when the post is taken, is there something about the photograph that said, oh, that's where that is?
It was the black piece of board that would pin it onto and the clear pins that were used and the gray paint that's our wall.
You have no doubt that whoever took this photograph took it from that hallway of that bulletin board.
Yes.
And does anyone have access? This is a public area?
Yes, it is.
So when you went from that stage of knowing that someone has taken a picture from a public area and posted it onto Facebook, first of all, was that post anything insulting to you personally?
Nothing.
What was
I
that
didn't say
post?
anything personally.
What was on that post?
It was basically derogatory towards the city that I can pull it up here. Like there's a problem that there's another closed session.
Okay, and so this is the particular post that, do you recall what that closed session was for?
I don't recall because
If I said it was to discuss police department salaries, does that refresh your memory?
yes, I believe
Yes,
so.
but again, did you take offense to this?
Not at all.
Did you think, hey, this is someone taking a shot at me right now?
Not at all.
What was your concern?
That someone is if it was a department member that they're trying to not be on the same team, I guess.
Okay. Well, and when you say,
disparage the city.
when you say same team, so I post something about a closed session. Was there anything else that was a part of that post that? What am I missing? I see a post about a closed session and I say, oh, okay, big deal. What about that post gave you concern?
Oh, well, it's just an awful lot of this happening lately.
Can I see that?
Sure.
Is everyone on the council familiar with this Facebook post? Is it okay if I pass this around? Counselor, have you seen this post? I don't know where the camera is here. The Facebook post in question is a picture of the Common Council meeting agenda. The Facebook statement by Amory, Wisconsin Word of Mouth, Post Anything, poster City CTY Watch. The caption says, another closed session meeting tonight, ... An awful lot of this happening lately. Are you familiar with that?
I have that document, yes. Is it possible we can share that with everybody else watching?
As far as we're concerned, this is their open request, the request for an open hearing is something we've respected and acknowledged, but I don't think that entitles to the member of the audience to all the evidence that's being presented. I mean, I have no problem with it, but I also don't see why we would be doing that. So this post comes out, you take that comment of awful lot of closed sessions. How do you interpret that statement?
Interpret that that there's like a problem with the city, that there's somebody's trying to start something.
In terms of a closed session, maybe some secrets are being told or something along those lines?
Definitely, yes.
Okay, so your concern really began from whoever city watcher is posting negative things about the city, negative things about the police department, and your concern is that someone within the city or within your department is either the city watcher or is working with the city watcher to disclose potentially confidential and sensitive nature documents?
Definitely, yes. I was also told about at the same time as this post here, I was also shown the one that was from April 24th.
And tell us about the post from April 24th.
Says, so please tell me why the Amory Police Chief is taking professionalism classes that the police department is paying for out of their regular budget. May lead to hours cut, etc. When he lied on his resume and said he had these skills. If you pay taxes in the city of Amory, this should outrage you.
Okay, so that one's a little more personal. Did you take offense to that?
Not at all.
Feel attacked by that?
No.
Let me ask you this, as a police chief or as a police officer, do you have obligations to continuing education credits?
Yes, and we have a budget for that, training budget.
So this was something already in the budget.
Yes.
You didn't need to slash somebody's salary to take a C. Are they referred to as CLE, CEUs?
I'm not sure which.
Okay, just continuing education.
Education, yes.
So, and no one lost their job for this.
No,
And is this a common class for police chiefs?
definitely, yes.
Are there other police chiefs in this class?
There are lots of police chiefs that take these classes throughout the whole United States.
Okay, so this wasn't anything out of the ordinary, something lacking.
No,
Okay. This one was a little closer to home. At this point, you'd already started the investigation, or you were made aware of this post at the same time you were starting the
I
investigation?
was made aware of the post at the same time.
Okay. And how did we get from there to questioning? I don't know why I keep Miss Escrow.
Oh, once I found, I realized that this was in our lobby. I wanted to pull the video and see if it was an employee or who did it.
Okay.
And it happened to be an employee. So which tied her into giving this post to somebody to discredit the city. And then the choice of words in the post on April 24th was a direct conversation I had with Miss Escrow. So I tied that together, and that's why I started the rest of the investigation.
So you saw her on video as the one taking the picture that later ends up being posted by City Watch.
Yes,
Okay. Miss Escrow is an employee. Does she have any prior disciplinary actions in her file?
I believe she was disciplined for doing a Facebook post on Amory, Wisconsin. Word of mouth first. I don't know all the details, but it was a verbal reprimand for
Okay,
posting stuff on Facebook.
So police department activity on Facebook.
Yes,
But that was before you were police chief.
yes,
So you're aware, though, that she had had a prior reprimand, verbal, but for the same type of activity,
yes.
posting professional issues from the police department directly onto Facebook. Okay. So let's get to this. You watch the video, you determine it's time to question Miss Escrow about her possible connection to the City Watch. These posts are going on. Walk us through how that happened.
Well, I got my body camera because I'm not sure if the last time I heard the audio was out in our interrogation room. So I want to use a body camera to show it, and I grabbed my computer because I was going to pull up photos if I needed to, or the photos, and I started asking her questions.
So use of the interrogation room, did you consider this an interrogation, or was it just a private room?
What's this, a room where we question people?
Was there another room you could have used it?
Well, this was kind of private, so no way to get no interruptions. There's no phones in the room or anything like that.
Did you choose to use that room for the privacy of Miss Escrow?
And it's on video as well.
We're going to play the video of the interview, but please just kind of set the stage for us a little bit. What are we going to see in this video in terms of you, Miss Escrow, anybody else that's available, date and time, that sort of thing?
There was nobody else that was involved in this. It was my investigation, and I started asking questions, and she was kind of evading, not answering the questions fully. At one point, she didn't even want to answer, or so she doesn't have to tell me. I was being calm. I was not being hostile. I was not being, as she stated, I was actually being very, very calm. And during the interview, she actually interrupted me 20 times. I did interrupt her 4 times, but she interrupted me 20 times, and you can count it on the video. And throughout those questions, and she did ask me if she was being terminated, and I believe I said that she's not. I have to look at my notes or watch the video, but I told her she's not being terminated at that point. And
when you say she wasn't being terminated at that point, meaning you were still conducting an investigation that was still open?
Yes, because she asked me if she was being terminated. But no.
And so her evading questions and not answering questions, is there something as being an employee of the police department that would require me as an employee to answer your questions?
Under the General Order 4.03, section sub D sub 2, says all questions asked of an employee under investigation that are specifically related to employment must be fully and truthfully answered. Refusal to answer may result in disciplinary action.
So in other words, if you're conducting an investigation within the department and I refuse to answer questions, that within itself is insubordination.
Yes.
If I evade answering a question, is that insubordination?
Yes.
What about interrupting you? Would that be maybe not insubordination, but would that be disrespecting the commanding officer?
Yes.
Did all those things occur during the course of this interview?
Yes.
So towards the end of the interview, did she ask you again if she was being terminated?
You did.
How did that interaction go?
Or I have more investigations, or more research to do. And some more, I believe, was investigating. Well, I don't remember exactly what I used. We have to watch the video, see exactly. And I told her to go, she can go back to her desk for a couple minutes. And I said, actually, then they said, just go back to your desk and do your duties, or something to that effect. And then I asked if she had any other questions, and she didn't. And I went to open the door. She was quicker with her key, and she opened the door. I said, thank you. And she went to her desk. And I went over to my.
Before we go any further, so as you concluded that investigation, did you have any intention of terminating her that day?
Not at all.
Did you have in your mind, you had more people to question within this investigation?
I did, but I wanted to look over the body camera and see look at the answers and how she gave them and all that stuff, and make my determination from there.
And what happened after that then?
I shut my body camera off after we left the room. Then I realized I turned it back on, and as I was walking back out to the hallway, because I advised her not to talk about this because it's a pending investigation. And I said it also included, I believe, was no text or emails to keep the integrity of the investigation. And then I noticed that she shut her light off and she put something in her purse. And I asked, are you leaving? She says, yes, I'm leaving. And then when she's walking past me, she says, you'll be hearing from my attorney. And she left. I didn't give her any permission to leave. She didn't finish any of the work that she was doing. She left it there. And then I had wanted to give her, so I went back into my office to get the paperwork for her appeal. And I was a little flustered myself, but I'll admit that. But the video show I was not being disrespectful. I was not being aggressive. I was not being hostile. And I just can't believe she just walked off like that. So I was a little flustered, like I said. And so then I grabbed a phone for her appeal, and I believe she said something like, I'm not signing anything. And so I went to make some copies of paper, and she signed it. And she said something because I need to know where her ID and her key fob were. Because if she's terminated, she shouldn't be having those. And so she said something, I couldn't understand it. And so I had to raise my voice a little bit and I believe I said, I need to know where the key and your ID and the key is. And then she came by and she put it down by the desk. And some other words were exchanged. I don't recall exactly what, but as she walked out, she says, word of advice, talk to your employees or something to that. And she walked out the door. Oh, and she's going to have another officer pick up her stuff because I asked her to get her stuff.
Okay.
Something to that effect.
Have you had any interaction with her since then?
No, I did not.
You have the video ready to go. And if I need you to maybe pause it for a second, so if I have a follow-up question, do we have that capability?
Yeah, we should.
Okay, I ask everyone to bear with us. The video, we're on short notice here. I didn't have a chance to edit it. So on the one hand, what you're seeing is a completely unaltered video. It does run about 20 minutes though. So I do apologize for the time. Do we have sound?
It will turn on a little bit.
Okay, let's just pause it here real quick. Okay, so I see a watch and a wrist here. Whose hand and wrist watch is that?
That is mine. That's me.
And you know that because that's the same watch you're wearing right now?
Yes,
Okay, and I briefly think we saw Miss Escrow come into the corner of the camera. Is that right?
yes,
And so is this the video you were just discussing?
yes,
The interview you just testified to, that's the interview we're about to see.
yes.
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. Informing you that you are here to investigate a trial investigation. So here is your. You have to sign that, and I will sign that for you as well. This was brought to my attention. Of the some posts that were on Facebook and stuff, so I have to ask, did you take any photos of town council agenda?
Yes.
Okay, okay, and why did you do that?
I just none of them available.
Okay,
They're public information.
okay, yeah. Okay, and what did you do with that photo? So on the phone?
Yeah.
So you didn't give us anything else?
I just really asked for what was happening with what the council's agenda was. I sent it to them.
Okay, and who did you send it to?
I'm sure some friends.
Well, I need to know who those friends are. You just send it to. Who you sent that?
Something that is public knowledge that I sent privately off to me.
Okay, well, it's the photo that you sent was been used to discredit the department. So, and also, I'm a council from the city, so. Are you refusing to answer, tell me who you sent this photo to?
I don't believe that I did anything wrong.
I didn't ask that. Please, are you refusing to tell me who you sent this photo to?
I sent a photo to friends who asked about the
Okay, who asked about the common council?
my friends asked about it. And you're about to tell it, that's what I'm confident.
Who did you send that photo to?
And I don't believe I'm giving you this before.
What was your intention on giving that photo?
I have no intention of
On giving this photo to this person tonight? That's your photo, is it, or no?
who says it's my photo.
I think that's the photo that you put here.
Yeah, that's my photo.
This is the photo, this actual photo here, the one here, took that photo. Okay. And who did you give this photo to?
I sent that photo to friends of mine. They asked what was on the agenda and I sent it.
You had to give me.
I don't, they've done nothing wrong, this is not an illegal picture, it is not.
I know that.
It won't stop it, it's what he's saying. They're not being investigated.
You're sorry, who you sent this photo that was used to discredit the department study of Amory.
You guys are not understanding how it's being used to this.
I'm gonna get to that. But it's starting to rile up people and stuff like that. Okay. So you're not gonna tell me who you sent it to.
I don't need to give them.
Okay.
And friends,
Friends that that you know previously made statements to discredit disparities in the department.
And you're thinking about asking one.
I don't think it's actually wrong.
No.
Is this actually wrong? This city watcher?
I don't know.
Are you a city?
I don't know.
Who's actually wrong?
Somebody that's having hate and things that is after her and it continues to. She's a friend of mine, and I was not here for her because she dares to question things.
This wasn't. But well, I think you was given to this person. And then previous knowledge, you know, this person has, this city watcher has previously just got everyone. Study. I understand.
You have the right to question things in the world.
I understand that, but when you take a part in that.
Who's that second part of that? You have a publicly posted that they have gotten anywhere.
Yeah, but nobody else did, you're the one who and gave it to somebody else.
But this can be found anywhere. I don't usually want to say, posted.
Yes, but you took this actual photo and gave it to somebody who posted this on the city.
It's public information, do the same student picture of newspaper article.
Okay, but the history you have with, well, I won't say the history, but this person's city manager. You no one has said bad stuff in the past about it.
I have nothing yet.
You haven't had anything, I won't show you what else the city watcher has said. What's the city watcher? Okay, so. And here's the other thing. You read that post. Yeah. I wanna understand how the private conversation that me and you had.
We didn't have a private conversation about that.
Not about this the post of. Remember the staff meeting, at the end of the staff meeting, when you said, when we just cleaned up the food, and then you said, oh, I gotta go pick up or I gotta take my kids to soccer, or I have soccer today, or something to that effect. I said, oh, yeah, I gotta get it's almost 5 o'clock, I gotta get myself home, to do homework. And then you inquired about. What's that for you?
We talked about Northwestern University on the city council meeting. I did that.
Me and you changed it. What are you taking? That's what our conversation was. That you recall that.
You were having a conversation like that.
Okay. Okay, under the common council. Okay, let's see. Yes, on the YouTube video committee home meeting from March 13th, I stated on there that I was attending Northwestern University to, well, better to supervise stuff, which I made a spoken statement because I was nervous about it at the council. And so the order in there was listed as professionals and risks. I understand. So. I had to get my resume out because one of the reasons I'm. Big Northwestern, I was studying Northwestern University for leaderships. So I don't understand how the conversation that me and you. That only me and you had. Was specific statements of professional classes. That's to city watcher on April 24th.
I don't,
Okay,
people draw their own conclusions based on what they see.
okay, so they took the exact words of you and put that in there.
So you remember saying Shmuel was in classic, but you can't remember exactly. I don't have kids in soccer.
Well, it's not that it's two words. Second grade concert to go. That was what. That's a second grade concert to go to. What you tell me is. There's professional classes, it happens to be.
I am not responsible for whatever this person is writing.
Okay. But you told this person on the conversation, I think somebody can,
So this person,
nobody else would have this.
it's that they could draw those conclusions from the city council meeting.
And then. On the third, another. Every word of mouth folks again, from City Watcher, this happens to get a picture that you sent to that person. And post it on there. What do you think will happen? What do you think is the point of someone posting it? Post.
Because I think people want to know what's going on in their city. I think the taxpayers have a right to know what's going on in their city.
And so you don't agree with what, officers continuing education, is that what it's kind of about, or what? You don't agree?
I don't think they're actually with one five.
I'm not, I'm not concluding yet. Trying to answer, ask questions here. So I don't understand how a conversation you have get put on, that's told to somebody, put on social media.
Like I asked you, there have been many conversations that we've had with the downstairs administration, that you have found out about it, and you have found it. That there is a major lack of trust everywhere.
What conversation?
The conversation in the department meeting about your lack of qualifications, I know exactly who that came from.
How, and
Because that answer was from a private conversation that only one person would know about.
so. Apparently this person just saw my resume.
I didn't know if it's even a resume or not.
All I know is you have knowledge of a private conversation regarding my resume that you said you had with somebody else. Or whatever you just said downstairs, somebody told me or something.
You know that I have said things to people downstairs, asking questions, bringing concerns forth, those have been brought to you and then those to all over the department.
I just don't understand how a conversation that we've had gets to the same person that you happen to give your photo to, who with a city watcher, you know, obviously you know that they post stuff that disparages the city, the common council, the police department, the department that you work for.
I don't think it's fair, you know, it's encouraging to ask questions.
He lied on his resume. Yeah, skills. So.
This isn't anything that I've said, this is somebody's personal opinion, they're not allowed to see that.
I didn't say they're not allowed to say that. The thing is when you're giving somebody's private conversation, knowing that they're going to use it.
I mean, they can talk about those professionalism classes, which could very possibly be the words that they just chose to use. That's where this is coming from because of those two words.
Well, and then all of a sudden you take a photo of the agenda,
Something that is public.
and you've done that before.
Yes, plenty of times.
When have you done that?
Many times, I know. It's public information. They're posted on Instagram. It's personal reference.
But it was given to somebody who utilizes things to discredit and disparage the department.
That's their right to do.
Okay, but if you,
Isn't that something that is their right to do that? They can have their own personal opinions. I'm not responsible for the opinions of this person. They ask me questions and I answer them,
it just shows a pattern of behavior that you're giving information to somebody that you know will ask the department, the city council. They're the ones who, city of Cambridge, the outrage you, right? Basically, like they're saying is, the police department's paying for out of their regular budget, right?
That's
So,
what
I
I
understand that.
The budget is always not,
I understand that.
only money you ask for,
I
and the wage should.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
So someone asks me questions,
Okay. But when you know that they're going to post something,
I know that I'm going to do that.
you know, at that time, maybe, I don't know. But then all of a sudden you give this photo of the town council agenda to this person who you used to tell me who you're giving these to. And again, they're shedding negative light on the state like they've done in the past.
Not responsible for what that person did.
But give them information knowing that they're gonna have the money. But same thing, but that kind of stuff.
I disagree, I think if it's public information they've asked for, then I can get it to them. They do with it what they want.
What did you think was gonna? What did you think was gonna come out of giving this person this photo?
They asked for the information, I gave them the information.
So does this happen to?
People want to know what's going on in their city.
So in a matter of a minute and a half, people wanted you to know that, so you went out there, took a photo, and gave it to somebody. That was your second. So you walk out to the hallway, right? I mean, how did this occur with you taking this photo?
I don't understand.
Well, it's like-
I frequently go out there.
say that people wanna know, so you gotta go out there. A matter of time, just a matter of time, open the door and what, take the photo and then go back in. I don't understand. You got a text from somebody, somebody called you and said, hey, what's going on with the agenda?
I take pictures of the agenda, and then when somebody asks, what's going on with the agenda, I can say, here you go, here's the agenda.
It's just, it's something normally.
Yes.
It's from that photo that you take, it's on a website. That this spread is very for the department. You don't think those are disparaging or discrediting the department?
I think people have a right to ask questions,
I understand you believe that, but do you think that's disparaging when somebody says that?
when somebody asks questions, what was going on, is there anyone?
When somebody makes a post of like this, right? He write out his resume, they get skills, It's actually angry or without. Maybe the hours cut, but that's not disparaging, that's not starting false information.
I have no, nothing to do with what they said.
I understand that, but you know that when somebody, when you give this information to people.
Do with them if they will.
Just to be clear. I'll ask you, how did our conversation get into that?
I don't know, they kind of asked them, the city council website meetings, you got your own meetings.
Conversation that me and you had, and it's ended up on Facebook on April 24th. That not
We had, she could have had this conversation.
okay. Not the police department, all these crisis to me and all that, and then all of a sudden, come May 3rd. So the photo that we posted by this person again. That happens to try to discredit the city, rile people up and all that. I don't understand how a private conversation you had ends up on Facebook.
I don't even.
Okay. Well, that was our private conversation, because I.
Stated that.
But me and you. Me and you stated, me and you had that conversation.
I do not recall if you said professional classes or whatever you said.
Well, that was our conversation. If you have anything you'd like to add,
No, I would not want to firing.
I have not made that determination yet. I have some research to do, but as of right now, you can. Go back and duty for a minute or for a little bit. So I do a couple things, and then we'll see what happens.
What couple of things are you?
What I have to do a little research. I have to do a couple other things. So it's still pending this investigation. And since it's still an ongoing investigation, in order you not to talk about this until it's complete. You understand that?
I would like a copy of all of this, please.
You'll get a copy.
I would like a copy of all of this, please.
They'll go with whatever you're gonna do, but you're gonna get a copy of it as well. Okay. Any other questions? That's the office.
So I'm just having her fast forward to the end of this, and then there's a second video. You remember that the police chief said he shut his camera off, turned it back on. So when we pick up the second video, that's being turned on. Now, again, I'm gonna have her fast forward just a little bit. Not trying to omit anything, but the body camera shows the police chief's desk. And for fear there may be some confidential information on the desk that would then appear on the camera here, for obvious reasons, we're gonna skip past that, but. I don't think we're going to miss any of the pertinent conversation that was going back and forth. I think we could probably start there.
That's also ordering out to text talk about it.
Please just pause.
Are you leaving?
Please just pause right there and maybe back it up just a smidge. So just to catch us up to speed, Chief Hansel, so we just heard you make a statement to her. Can you and very clearly tell us what you just said?
I believe it was don't talk, reiterated about not talking about it, so I want to say not to text or email or
And that's because this is an ongoing investigation.
investigation, yes.
Please proceed.
Are you leaving? Okay, well. Okay, you're being terminated right now, then. Okay, here's, I need your ID.
Okay, maybe fast forward a little bit here because that's his desk. I don't think anyone can see anything on there. We're just trying to be very careful about this. Okay, push play, please. Thank you.
Here's your copy. You're refusing to find this here. Where's their key? Excuse me, I'm not done talking. Out where? I need to see where is it? Where's your ID? Here's a copy of your investigations. Here's your copy of your investigation. And this is your right to appeal. You'd like to sign it, I have to sign this here, that you have the right to appeal. Well. Anything that you want to have for the department, anything that you need to pull out. Your stuff. Your document. You can gather, I wanted to gather your stuff. Ask who? You ask him? Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, so the videos pretty much went as your testimony did. Great recollection there, Chief. Did anything occur after that video shut off?
No,
I'm sorry, was that a question or was that a comment or what was that? Was that just a general statement for the public? What was that?
I was asking a question. Did anything happen after that video went off?
No, what you said before that, which great testimony, Chief. Your recollection seemed to match up. Was that some kind of was that a comment? Was that a question? What was that statement meant to convey to the public here?
I think he did a great recollection of the events and the video. We're not in court right now, so this is a little more informal. Talking to my client, just saying, good job. We good?
I think we're clear, yeah.
Okay. So following that, that obviously concluded the investigation at that point.
yes,
Not necessarily because you found grounds to tie her to City Watch, but because she had. Why did that ultimately determination then?
he was evasive on the questions and she refused to answer the question at a couple points. And then she just walked out. I didn't give her permission to leave. She left in the middle of her day. She left in the middle of her job, what she was doing, and she left.
So in terms of the notice you gave her for termination that listed out all the different charges for the termination, were those weighted?
The top three on the conclusions, which is on supplement number 2. Insubordination, unauthorized absence, and refusal to obey legitimate orders from a supervisor. Those were the main reasons why she was terminated.
So those other charges were listed as possible, but not really the main reasons?
Yes.
And those were possible because the investigation may have led to something else.
That is true.
In your mind, as you were approaching this issue with Ms. Escrow, was this in any way discrimination towards her?
Not at all.
Anything personal against her?
Not at all.
You guys ever had any negative interactions outside of work?
Never.
Any negative interactions inside of work?
Never.
Anything personal against her at all?
Not at all.
I don't have any more questions for you, Chief Hensel. We can turn it over for cross-examination. And then I'd like to reserve some time for just a very brief final statement after the cross-examination goes. And then unless Attorney Hitchcock has a different idea of how we proceed, I think we would hand the case over to him to call any witnesses he has. If that's okay, I'll go ahead and proceed in that fashion.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Sir, Mr. Hansel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And is this the first time that you've terminated anybody?
Yes, officially, yes.
Okay. And what training do you have in termination?
I assisted in a few terminations at my prior job.
Okay. And who did you assist there? What rank was that person?
That was a sergeant and a lieutenant,
Sorry.
Yeah,
And what was your rank at that point?
police officer.
An officer. Okay. So prior to being and correct me if I'm wrong, but an officer in the city of Milwaukee has no supervisory authority of any kind, right?
I was an instructor at the academy, so I was in charge of my platoon.
Okay. So that's equivalent to a work leader, is that right?
But I don't know what you mean by a work
Could you
leader.
hire and fire any of those people under your supervision?
I guess I couldn't.
Okay. Did you write any reports on those people?
Yes, I did.
How about personnel evaluations? Did you do that?
Negative.
Okay. Now, you said the treasurer, I believe, Mr. Jansen, brought this issue to your attention. Is that right?
Yes,
And I'm sorry, I'm not in the room, but is Mr. Jansen in that room there?
it was not.
Okay. Does he hold a position on the city? Is he a city employee?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And you also, I understand, ultimately learned of this information from the city clerk. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know whether or not the city clerk discovered this information on the city's time or some other time?
I have no idea.
Did you investigate that?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I think it would be relevant. It was just the things was brought to my attention.
Okay.
I don't know if it mattered if it was on city time or not. It was brought to my attention.
Well, can you explain to me why it wouldn't matter if it was on city time or not?
I don't know why that would matter if it was on city time or not. I has no bearing in my investigation.
Okay. So you were just investigating your employees, is that true?
I was trying to investigate whoever possibly posted this.
Oh, okay. Can you identify what possible crimes you were identifying at this time?
There was no criminal, there was rule violations apparently.
Okay. And do you believe this person worked for the city of Amory?
I did not know that at the time.
Okay. Do you know that now?
I do that. I know it now.
You know that the person who posted the Amory County Watch is a member, was employed by the Amory city at that time.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. No, I did not know that, and I still don't know.
Okay. So you were assuming then, correct me if I'm wrong, that the person who posted that worked for the city, right?
So I'm determined at that moment.
Okay. Now, is there any time that a city employee can make a post on Facebook about the city?
Who can say what they want?
Okay. But not this, not Miss Escrow, is that true?
Well, if a city employee disparages the city, that should be investigated.
Okay, and what if they do that on their own time? Is that something they can do?
I don't know if they can do that or not.
Why don't you know that?
I don't know. Don't have an answer for you.
Okay, did you find that out before you started this investigation?
I did not.
Okay, so do you know what the First Amendment is?
Yes,
Okay. And do you believe that city employees have the First Amendment when they're outside of, when they're not working?
yes, I do.
Okay, how about when they're working?
Everybody has a right to the First Amendment, as long as they don't disparage the city.
Okay,
They signed I believe in the employee handbook about things so they don't do things that what is, I believe it was adversely affect or disparage the city, something to that effect. It's in the city handbook.
okay, and that's 24 hours a day, is that right?
I don't know. I don't know if it says, I can't recall every single page of the city manual.
Well, shouldn't you have figured that out before you started this investigation?
No, because it was brought to my attention because it was outside my lobby. Well, I wanted to investigate. And if
Because it was outside your lobby. Okay, now is the outside in the lobby, can you just describe that to me? Is that a private area? Is that a public area?
it's a public area.
Okay. And the notice that we're talking about, what kind of notice is that? Is that your private notice?
No, it's just the common council meeting agenda. It's in a public area.
Okay. So that behavior is somehow, just describe to me what rule violation there is in a employee taking a picture in a public area of a public document.
It wasn't a rule violation at that moment. I was investigating. I wasn't finished with my investigation.
Sure. But what you had was a post, which you admit, right, is a free and legitimate activity.
Yes,
right? Yeah, so that you can be criticized, right?
yes.
You can be criticized on Facebook, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Can people file ethics complaints against you?
Anybody can file any kind of complaint they want.
Okay. And has anybody filed an ethics complaint against you?
Against me, no.
Okay. Are you aware of Ms. Escrow filing any ethics complaints?
Yes,
How did you become aware of that?
was given a copy
Who gave that to you?
on advice of the lawyer. Patty gave me a copy of that. I'm sorry, it wasn't Patty. It was Ben Jansen. I was served with it.
Okay.
Putting into an area that
That's the same Mr. Jansen who gave you this information here about the Facebook post, right?
So, a copy of this ethics complaint. I think it was my third day on the job.
Okay. Was it even filed before you were an employee there?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, you stated in your testimony that Miss Escrow escalated your interrogation of her, right?
Yes.
Okay. How did she escalate? After we've seen the video now, can you describe to me how she escalated, please?
She raised her voice a few times and she interrupted me constantly.
Okay. And you've counted how many times that she supposedly interrupted you, right?
Yes,
How many times is that?
20 times.
And how many times did you watch the video in order to make that determination?
I don't recall how many times I watched it.
Okay, more than 5 times?
Could have been, I don't recall.
Okay. Have you produced this video in response to Miss Escrow's public records complaint?
She has a copy on a zip drive
When did you provide that to her?
today.
Okay. Now, you said you chose the interrogation room because it was recorded, right?
Yes,
Okay, is that recording, was that active at that time?
the video was active, but there is no audio on that, which is why I use my body camera.
Okay. So you intentionally wore and turned on your body camera for this investigation, right?
Yes,
Okay. Was that your decision?
yes,
Did you consult with anybody before you interrogated Miss Escrow?
no, I did not.
Okay. Now, you testified before we watched the video that Miss Escrow said she was going to call her attorney, right?
Yes,
Okay. Did you hear that in this recording here?
in the second recording, yes.
She says that she's going to call her attorney.
You'll hear from my attorney, something to that effect it was.
Okay. And you also said that she was leaving or left the office. Did I hear that right?
Yes, she shut her light off, put something in her purse, and I asked if she was leaving, and she says she's leaving, and you'll hear from my attorney. And then she walked out.
Well, you said something, didn't you, sir?
Um, Are you asking me a question?
Yeah. What did you say to Miss Escrow?
I asked if she was leaving,
And then what else?
and then she said she was leaving.
And you said you're terminated, right?
After she started walking out, yes. After she left her duties,
Okay. Did she leave the room?
was walking that way, yes. There's 2 doors to the building.
Okay. So because it's your testimony that because she was walking in such a way, you assumed that she was leaving, and then therefore you said terminate her? Did I understand that right?
Oh, I came to that conclusion when I asked her, are you leaving? And she says she's leaving. That's how I
Okay.
determined that.
Okay. And that meant to you quitting. Is that right?
If she's leaving and she's abandoning her post and not finishing her job, yes,
Okay. So, but in fact, then you said the words you're terminated, right?
yes, after that.
Okay. So in fact, you she says she's leaving, and then you say you're terminated. That's your testimony?
No, she said, I asked if you're leaving, and she says, I'm leaving. You'll hear from my attorney, as she had her purse in her hand and started walking.
Okay.
And I said she was terminated.
Okay. Now, there was some, excuse me. Are we able to swear this gentleman in? I understand he wasn't sworn in before. Are we able to swear this witness in?
This is a employment panel hearing. I mean, off the record here, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, well, do you swear to tell the truth, to answer my questions?
Is what?
Do you swear to tell the truth in answering my questions?
I'm answering your question, sir.
Have you told the truth in answering all of my questions?
Yes, I did.
Okay. At any time, did you threaten to terminate Miss Escrow prior to the interrogation?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever threaten to terminate anybody in relation to the ethics complaint?
No, I didn't.
Well, you don't have to answer that. That's outside the scope of tonight's employment view.
Who says that?
Ms. Escrow is the only person here on an employment appeal. Therefore, the only thing relevant tonight is anything that has to do with her termination.
I appreciate that information. My question to him was, Did you ever threaten to terminate anyone? Is it other than Miss Escrow? Did you threaten to terminate people who weren't Miss Escrow? Is that what the issue is?
I did not threaten to terminate anybody.
Oh, okay. Now, let's just talk about these Facebook posts again, because you've testified several times that they didn't bother you at all, right?
It don't bother me at all.
Okay, and that's what's reflected in your body cam footage, is that right?
Yes,
Okay, and you don't bring up the issue of your resume at any time?
I did bring up the issue of my resume,
Okay, and why was that important to you at that time?
part of the post.
Okay. Is your resume a private document, sir?
I don't know if it is.
Well, I could request it by public records, couldn't I?
I would assume so.
And I could put it up on every poll in town, couldn't I?
It's open for the public, yeah.
Okay. So is that a basis for you to interrogate Miss Escrow?
No,
No. Okay. So again, we've established that there's no actual criminal activity.
there is no criminal activity, no.
No. And there's just an accusation that somebody's disparaging the city.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's why I talked to Miss Escrow.
And you've never determined whether Miss Escrow, in fact, disparaged the city, right?
I did not, no.
Okay. And you never determined, I guess let's put this another way. Now, you ordered Miss Escrow to answer your questions, didn't you?
Yes,
And you testified earlier that she was under work rule that required her to answer all your questions and to answer them truthfully, right?
yes,
Okay. And did you explain that to her at any time?
I did not. She read the paper and she signed it and didn't have any questions.
Okay. So that information is on that paper?
I believe so, yes.
Great. So you elected to ask Miss Escrow questions under threat of termination about this Facebook post, right?
No, it was not under threat of termination.
Well, if she didn't answer your questions, you could terminate her, right?
That would be a possibility if she didn't answer them.
Okay, and you're saying she knew that because she signed this document, right?
I don't know. She didn't ask any questions. She signed it.
Okay, so based on that, you assume that she was aware of that work rule, right?
I would assume that, yes.
Okay, because you weren't interrogating her in a criminal context, were you?
No, not at all.
Okay, what if she had got up and walked out of that interrogation?
I can't answer for what didn't happen. I don't know. I have to gather my thoughts and come up with a conclusion.
Would that have been a work rule violation or something else?
You got up and just left the room or just walked out of the building? I don't know. You can assume anything.
Okay, well, it was a terminatable work rule violation for her to take some steps towards the door, right? That's your testimony?
To actually leave her job duty was why she was terminated, not just taking steps towards the door.
Okay, and you knew that she wasn't going to the bathroom, is that right?
Yes, because
How'd you know that?
she shut her light off and she said she was leaving when I asked if she was leaving.
Okay, when did she shut the light off in that recording?
She shut the light off before I asked her if she was leaving. And then she
Okay.
said she was leaving.
Can you answer my question though? When did she shut the light off?
I don't, we have to look at the video and see the exact time.
Okay, but you're saying your testimony here today, right now, is in this video. It shows her shutting off the light.
But she shut the light off.
Okay. And so for example, is there a bathroom in that room, for example?
Not right in that initial office area.
Okay. Should she have left? She was going to the bathroom. Should she have left the light on?
I would assume that she would leave the light on.
Why would you make that assumption?
I've never seen anybody shut the light off until they leave.
Okay. Until they leave for the day, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. So on basis, and you've worked for how long at this department?
it's January 30th.
Okay. So 5 months is my count. So it's your testimony here, then approximately 5 months that anybody who's turned off the light without leaving for the day, you fired them for leaving the job?
No,
No, okay. Is it your testimony that nobody's ever turned off a light before leaving for the day at your department?
all that.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I recall that.
You don't recall that, okay. But you would have terminated them had they done that, is that right?
No,
No, okay. So maybe your interrogation had a little something to do with your decision to terminate her, then didn't it?
her walking off when I asked if she was leaving and she left.
But you keep saying walking off, but she didn't even leave the room before you made the decision and said you're terminated, right?
No, that's not what the video shows. I asked, and she said, "I'm leaving. You'll be hearing from my attorney." And then the light was off. I don't know how else to take that if she was going to use the washroom or anything, but usually when somebody shuts the light off and they answer you, "Are you leaving?" and they say, "Yes, I'm leaving. You'll be hearing from my attorney." I'd like to say that I believed that she was leaving.
Okay, and so let's just say, for example, that your entire interrogation was a violation of do you know what Garrity rights are? Do you know what those rights are?
I'd have to refresh my memory.
Okay, how about the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination? You aware of that?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, and so what if you had just violated Miss Escrow's Fifth Amendment rights against interrogation by requiring her to give answers and then using discipline as you're using this video now as a source of discipline for coerced statements? What if that was the case? Would it be appropriate then for Miss Escrow to say you'll be hearing from my attorney?
I don't know what if a lot of things could have happened. I just know.
What if you were violating Miss Escrow's First Amendment rights by asking her questions and interrogating her under threat of work rule discipline about activity that you allege is a exercise of the First Amendment? Would it be appropriate for her to tell you that you are gonna hear from her attorney or something else?
I don't know what she would seem as appropriate or not. You'd have to ask her that.
Okay. But you were in enough of a position and you have enough knowledge and experience to know that when she says, "I'm leaving, I'll call," and this is according to you, of course, because we don't accept that, "I'm leaving, I'll call my attorney," that meant to you that she was only telling her attorney about what?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her that. She says, "You'll be hearing from my attorney."
Okay. But you took that to mean she was quitting, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so you took that to mean that was related to the interrogation or something else?
What's your question?
Did you believe her statement that you allege that she made, that you'll be hearing from my attorney, was related to your interrogation of Miss Escrow or something else?
Oh, I believe that she said that because she was leaving.
Okay, and about how long was the duration, because it was fast forwarded, so it was unclear to me, so please help me out, between you said you're terminated and when the interrogation ended?
I believe it was maybe 2-3 minutes. I think the second video was about 3 minutes, so maybe not even that long.
Okay, and you had some papers in your hand during that second video, right?
I went to grab some papers, yes.
Yeah, what were those papers you went to grab?
Well, I had the papers that I used when I talked to him with the posts on it, and then I went to go back inside my office, and then I still had those papers in my hand, and then I went outside to reiterate not to talk about it because it was still an internal investigation. That's when the conversation happened about when I saw that she was leaving. Then after all that took place, I went back to my office to grab the papers.
Okay, now I appreciate all that, sir, but can you kindly answer my question? And I'll repeat it for you just to assist you here. What were those papers that you grabbed?
The paper was a right to appeal.
Okay.
And I believe a copy of I was going to get a copy of the charging or the notice of the charges, or for basically the reasons why I was talking to her.
Okay. So is this when you say charges, can you explain to me what that means?
It's just the sheet that she signed, the investigation sheet. I'd have to find it here.
Okay, I think I believe I understand. And you're saying right to appeal. What purpose of that document?
For her termination.
Okay, and because you've conducted 0 terminations in your work experience, can you identify me how you learned of this document?
I don't know how I
Did you get it from outer space?
No, I didn't get it from
No.
ours.
Did you get it from your attorney? I see you looking at your attorney. Did you get it from him?
No, I did not.
Okay, is he gonna help you answer here?
So can you repeat the question? Make sure I
My
understand.
question to you right now is your attorney gonna help you answer my question?
I don't know. Could you
Okay.
ask your question again, please?
Okay, so keeping that in mind, that answer is I don't know. I'll go back to the question here that I'm asking you is where did you obtain this appeal, termination appeal form?
I believe I made it.
You what? I'm sorry?
Made it. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. Do we have a copy of this? Yes, I know it's the book. Oh. Took some, I believe I took some pages out of the employee handbook and made this on here and made a form for her to sign.
Oh, okay. When did you make that form?
I don't recall. Probably, maybe a that day.
Oh, okay. Was it on the video? Did you make that form?
No.
No, okay. Was it before you interrogated her?
Yes.
Okay, and then you testified earlier that you didn't have any intention of terminating Miss Escrow before this interrogation, right?
We're not.
How are we supposed to believe that?
I didn't bring it with me in the room. Based on her answers, we're either going to use the form or not use the form.
Oh, so you're just like a Boy Scout, is that right? You're just well prepared for termination?
I believe someone would be upset if they got terminated. They wouldn't need me to create a form or find one for 30 minutes or however long it may take. So I want to be prepared just in case.
Just in case. Okay. Better safe than sorry, is that right?
That's what you think.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
That's what you think. If it's better safe than sorry,
Well, you tell me, you say you crafted this document, right?
Yes,
And how'd you do that? On a computer or something else?
on a computer.
You use Word?
Yes,
Okay, and you combined a bunch of documents to create a new document, right?
yes,
Okay. Now, you read the policies for appeals at that time?
yes.
When did you read those?
I don't recall if it was before or after.
Before or after you created this document?
Yes,
Okay. And did you talk to anybody before you created this about the document before you created it?
no, I did not.
Okay. And so how did you come to believe that such a document would be necessary? And I don't mean in case of her termination, but just to be prepared for termination. How did you believe that such a document would be necessary for you to be prepared?
I believe I must have glanced over the right to appeal
Oh, and what caused you to glance over that?
in case I would have to terminate anybody.
Okay, like people who filed ethics complaints against members of the city council?
For anybody.
Okay.
I don't know what you're getting at.
Okay. Now, there's this conversation that you're saying that you had with Miss Escrow that was private about you taking classes, right?
Yes,
Okay, and now everybody knows about you taking classes, right?
yes.
And they would not have, how many people are in the audience there today?
About 24.
24. So you wouldn't have 24 people taking time out of their day to come watch you tell us about how you're not concerned about Facebook posts had you not engaged in this investigation, right?
I don't understand your question.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go on to something else. I heard you say that the Facebook posts were starting to rile up people. Do you recall saying that?
Yes,
Who were those people that the Facebook posts were starting to rile up?
the people who commented on them,
Okay, who are they?
I don't know. Let me take a look.
Well, how about the clerk? Is she one of those people?
I don't know. You'd have to ask her that.
Well, you are the one. Did I say people are starting to get riled up?
I guess you just said it now. I
Okay,
don't.
but I didn't say that during the interrogation, did I?
I said that during the
You
interrogation.
said that. Okay. So why did you say people are starting to rile up people? If you didn't know what people were starting to get riled up.
Because they were posting, they were making comments on them. And it was disparages the city.
And when you say disparage the city, you're talking about, is the city mentioned in this Facebook post from March?
If you, city of Amory, yes, it is.
Okay, how is it disparaging the city of Amory, please?
If you pay taxes in the city, it should outrage you. Because apparently I'm not allowed to take classes.
Okay, so, and just let me get it right. The people of the city of Amory are not able to state their opinion on how the taxes should be spent for your training. Is that right?
I can state whatever they want.
Okay, but when they did state it, you started an investigation, didn't you?
I did start an investigation.
Okay, so in fact, they can say whatever they want, but only with you starting an investigation, right?
That's a mischaracterization.
Well, we can now say, can't we, sir, that the comment there about the taxpayers paying money on your training, that person knows that there is an investigation that's happened because it's all over the public. And presumably this person watched the Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 special council meeting. So presumably she's watching this one, wouldn't you say? Or him? Okay. So based on that, and again, I'm sorry, I'm just going to back up 1 second. Is it your testimony here today that on Wednesday, March 15th, 2020, there was no mention of you taking any classes at a special council meeting?
I did say that.
Okay, so, but you did infer, correct me if I'm wrong, during your investigation, that the only way it would have been possible for anybody to have learned about the fact that you were taking classes is if Miss Escrow told them. Is that true?
That's a negative.
Okay, so that would be a faulty assumption, right? You didn't know that there was the only way that this information got out was from Miss Escrow, right?
I don't understand your question. I talked about taking classes at Northwestern University at the committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, and I want to back up here because it's important that we're all on the same page. I understood you to say that there was a private conversation between you and Miss Escrow in which you told Miss Escrow, among other things, the fact that you were taking leadership classes. Did I misunderstand that?
I didn't say leadership classes to her. I said, I believe it was leadership classes amongst the, I think it was at my staff meeting.
Okay, and is the reason you brought that up during the interrogation that you believed that Miss Escrow had communicated that information that you had during that private conversation to somebody else?
I would believe that. You'd have to ask her that. That's what she believed.
My question to you is, why did you ask that question?
Why did I ask which question?
Just because, correct me if I'm wrong, you asked her multiple questions about a conversation that you and her had, a so-called private conversation in which you told her about these classes, right?
Yes,
Okay, didn't you ask her where else did this information come from?
I did not.
Okay. So now going with that information in mind, that you accept that you had those questions and those interactions with her, what was the purpose of those interactions during your investigation?
See if she was enabling, or if she was city watcher, or if she was partially responsible or enabling somebody to twist information from our conversation and disparage the city with the comments.
Okay. And the big problem that I'm having with her, and I really hope you can help me out, is can you explain to me the difference between disparagement and free speech?
Disparaging is when it sheds a negative light on the city, and free speech, I guess, all free speech is free speech. You can say what you want.
Okay. So there's possible that there's sometimes disparagement and free speech overlap, or am I missing something?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you have any evidence that Ms. Escrow, before you initiated this investigation, was doing any of these alleged activities on the clock?
I do not. Well, she took a photo, but that's nothing bad. It just tied her into the reason why I wanted to talk to her.
Okay. And I get that. Now, your police powers, right? You have police powers, right?
Yes.
You also have employment powers, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do your police powers allow you to interrogate city employees about what they do after hours?
If it's a violation of policy, I believe it would. If it disparages the department.
So you can use your police powers to investigate work rule violations, is that true?
It's my administrative powers.
Okay, so we'll call those your work rule, your work employment powers, okay?
Okay.
All right. So can you use your employment powers to make a city employee tell you about their activities off the clock?
If it was regarding somebody bringing a complaint to my attention and I have to investigate something, yes.
Okay. And they have to answer you truthfully or they can be terminated?
They would have to answer me truthfully, and depending on what the discipline is, and depending on what the violation is, would determine the discipline.
Okay. So just backing up here, at the meeting that you and Miss Escrow, that you say you had with Miss Escrow, in which you discussed your training, was there anybody else at that meeting?
It's my whole department.
Oh, so you told everybody in the police department this, that you were taking training, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So did you investigate, I guess, let me put that another way. How many other police employees did you investigate, not including Ms. Escrow?
I'm not investigating anybody yet.
Okay, so there's just the existence of a public document and then this information that you told the entire department. Is that right?
I'm sorry, can you,
There's the only two pieces of information that you have tying Miss Escrow to this so-called Facebook post that supposedly disparages the city is the fact that she took a picture of a public document in a public place, and the fact that you told the entire police department that you were taking training, right?
That, again, you're mischaracterizing. He told the entire department he was taking leadership training. He told Ms. Escrow privately he was taking professional training. That was his estimate.
Okay, what's the difference between professional and leadership training, if you know?
All depends on, how you, look into it. I don't know.
Okay, are those words synonyms? They may have the same meaning or something else.
All depends on the, profession, I guess. I don't know. You have to ask the person who makes that determination.
That's what I'm asking you. Does those two words have two different meanings to you?
Professionalism, leadership, similar, I would guess.
Okay. And maybe I did misunderstand that, so I appreciate that interruption there, but is it true that there was two different conversations, one with just Miss Escrow, and what you said something along the lines of leadership, training, and another one with the whole department, which you said something along the lines of professionalism training?
Excuse me. I said with, Miss Escrow, professionalism classes, and then,
Okay.
then believe it was leadership with the department.
Okay. So this one says professional. Is that the Facebook post says professional? Is that right?
Professionalism classes,
Okay.
words that I spoke with Miss Escrow.
Now, I understood you said that there was some kind of prior discipline against Miss Escrow for making Facebook posts. You know that?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because I was given that.
What does that mean?
I was given the post.
Who was giving it to you?
I believe it was Deb Tandrum gave me the post.
Who's
She-
Doug Tandrum?
She was our human resources person.
Okay, this is a post, is that right?
It was in her file, in Miss Escrow's file.
Okay, and who put it in her file?
I don't know. It was there before I got the job.
Okay, so you're just saying there's a single post, is that right?
I believe so it was.
Okay, and based on that post, you are explaining to us that she had a verbal or some kind of discipline? Is that what that meant to you?
She was given verbal discipline for that, yes.
How do you know that?
As I talked to the person who gave the verbal discipline to
Who was
her,
that person?
was at the time interim chief Jason Hickok.
Okay, and it's your testimony that Jason Hickok gave her that, told you rather, that he disciplined her for making a Facebook post, is that true?
Yes,
Okay. Now, the termination letter that has all of these policy violations, do you see that? Are you aware of that document, I guess I should say?
yes,
Okay, did you write that document?
yes.
Do you have any assistance writing that document?
I did not.
Okay. How did you determine which work rule violations to put on that document?
I looked at the city manual and my rules and procedures.
Okay. You feel like you left out any possible work rule violations in there?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, just for my clarification, if a citizen feels like there are too many closed sessions and they make a comment about that, is there something illegal about that?
No, there's nothing illegal about that.
Okay, how does the fact that there's a lot of how does that disparage the city? Can you explain that to me?
Sounds like there's trying to like hide things.
Okay, were you aware of the city hiding anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, but you believe that this says that the city might be hiding things?
Possibility.
Okay, so the possibility of somebody alleging the city hiding something is a grounds to start an investigation. Do I understand that right?
That combined with the other post.
Okay, and just remind me here, how long was it between when no, I'm sorry, I believe it was the treasurer, and I don't want to mispronounce his name, but it was something like Johnson.
Ben Jansen?
Jansen, is it like Jansen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, when did he tell you of this post? What day?
On May 4th.
And when did you have the interrogation with Miss Escrow?
I believe it was May 11th.
Okay. So sometime between the 4th and the 5th, did you discuss terminating Miss Escrow with anybody prior to your decision to terminate her?
No, I did not.
Okay. What training have you had in conducting an investigation at a workplace rule violations?
Here's my police investigation from my 25 years of experience.
Okay, but no actual formal training, right?
No formal, specific for employee investigations, I guess you could say that.
Okay. And this is the first investigation that you've conducted on your own, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you consult any laws prior to conducting this investigation?
Spoke any laws? I don't understand your question.
Did you consult any laws, any legal documents, any legal authorities before you started this investigation?
I did not. I don't believe so.
Okay. So for example, you didn't learn anything about whether or not you can investigate the people for First Amendment activities?
I didn't see anything like that.
Okay. Now, your attorney asked you if you discriminated against Miss Escrow. Did you hear that?
Yes.
And you said you didn't, right?
I did not.
Okay. What do you mean by discriminate?
Depends on what my attorney, how he asked it, I guess. What did you mean by discrimination?
Was there anything, any immutable characteristic about Miss Escrow that makes you not like her? The color of her skin, her gender, her sexuality, anything that was her that she can't change about herself? Did it have anything to do with this termination? Have anything to do with that sort of thing?
No, not at all.
That's what I mean by discrimination.
Okay.
Okay. And how about, great. And another form of discrimination my learned colleague may have left out is retaliation. Did you discriminate against her in a retaliation for her making any complaints?
Not at all.
Okay. Now, the ethics complaint that was filed by Miss Escrow that you're aware of, that caused you to personally lose income, didn't it?
You don't have to ask about it. The ethics complaints are sealed documents. If we're going to discuss anything related to the ethics complaints, you need to have a court order to unseal those first. I'm not next to a microphone. I'm not sure you can hear me.
Sure, I did hear you, and thanks for that. I'm not asking what the ethics complaints are in. I'm asking, if you told us you're aware that Miss Escrow filed an ethics complaint, and I'm asking you, did you lose any personal income? I'm not asking for the details of the complaint, only did you lose any personal income on the basis of that complaint?
I was told that I did.
You were told that you did?
Mhm.
Okay, who told you that?
My wife.
Okay. So it's fair to say then that based on Miss Escrow filing a complaint, you personally lost income, right?
Can say that.
Okay. Well, you're the one testifying here, so what are you saying, sir?
That's how you want to say. Well, I guess you could say that. Yes.
Well, do you have any reason to believe your wife is lying when she told you that?
No.
No. Okay. So it's also your testimony that you don't have any personal animosity against Miss Escrow, even though you personally lost money as a result of her actions, including filing a complaint, right?
I do not have any animosity at all.
Okay. So do you enjoy losing money, income?
Not money that I like, just more expendable. I guess nobody enjoys it, but I didn't Didn't have no bearing on my bills or anything.
Oh, okay. Was it a significant amount of income that you lost or something else?
No, not very significant at all.
Okay. And did you learn of this before or after you terminated Miss Escrow?
What do you mean?
Did you learn that you lost income because of Miss Escrow filing a complaint before or after your decision to terminate Miss Escrow?
I didn't terminate her because I lost income, if that's what you're getting at. No, I learned, yeah, I guess I learned before that. But
Okay.
has no bearing on why I terminated her.
And you didn't like forget that before the while you were interrogating her, right?
Actually, I did forget it. During my
Okay.
meeting, I put a lot of things. I said, I want everybody to get along and we should be all on the same team. And no matter whatever happened is done in the past, and I want us to work as a team.
Okay. Did you say that in front of anybody?
I said that in front of for my staff meeting.
Okay, Mr. Hickok, for example?
Everybody, yes.
Okay. All right. If what I would appreciate here, and you have been very indulgent with me, but if we can just take a pause here, I would like to communicate with my client. I know we're distant here. I don't think it'll take very long, and then we can hopefully come back and wrap this part up. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Well, how much time do you need? Oh,
I mean, if you guys have a recess or anything, I don't want to step on your toes, but normally 5 minutes is what I would ask for.
at recess then?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Proposal here, I know we've asked some questions of Mr. Hansel. I would like to just get Mr. Hickok. I've got a few brief questions for him, if that's okay. I think he would be a better witness than to try to go around more time with Mr. Hansel.
I'm sorry, could you start over? The room was settling down and I wasn't prepared to hear what you were saying.
I appreciate you saying that. I will be happy to repeat. So my proposal here is, instead of asking Mr. Hansel more questions, we asked Mr. Hickok just a few brief questions, and in lieu of sort of dancing around the same issue with Mr. Hansel here.
And I would just object to that in terms of Officer Hickok is not a part of the termination at all, and I don't think would have any testimony related to this. I could see how Mr. Hickok may have something in regards to the prior reprimand for the first initial Facebook post before Chief Enzel was even here. But I don't think that's a disputed question at this point, so I'm not sure what we gain from testimony from Officer Hickok.
I appreciate that. Thanks for narrowing that down. No, we do dispute that. I think we do dispute whether or not Mr. Hickok disciplined her for that. So that's part of it. And I believe
that's not grounds for termination.
There was well, it's part of the decision to make a termination. So that's why you had testimony about it and got it on the record. So we just want to be clear on that part. The other issue, I think, is
talking over each other and I can't hear either one of you.
This is the confusion here. That was the crux for the investigation, which was not completed. The termination was for insubordination and unexcused absence. Had that investigation completed and led to a termination, I would agree at that point that everything involved in the investigation would be grounds for hearing a termination. That's not ultimately what was the determinative factor before the termination. It was the insubordination and the unexcused absence after the investigation. So therefore, we're here to defend that the investigation was just and that there was grounds for it. But ultimately, in a question of termination, that becomes irregardless.
So, okay, that doesn't make any sense. And I'll explain to you very clearly why. If it was irregardless, then we shouldn't have had any testimony about it in the first place. But what you're suggesting is that you can bring up this evidence, but we can't ask Mr. Hickok if that's what happened. And that this is hearsay here. And normally, and we don't allow hearsay. I understand very well that this is not a courtroom. But one of the reasons for the rule on hearsay is to get the best evidence from the best witness. I understand Mr. Hickok is there and available and ready to testify. I also understand that Mr. Hansel told Mr. Hickok that the reason that he fired Miss Escrow is because of a Facebook post. That testimony, if true, would contradict Mr. Hansel's testimony here, which is why, again, we believe that it's best to get this information straight from the source. Again, I don't have very many questions or very many subjects that I need to get answered by Mr. Hickok, and I frankly think we're spending more time arguing about this than it would take to get this evidence on the record, and then you guys can decide about how valuable it is.
I stand by my prior statement that there was plenty of other evidence that led to the investigation. We raised it as evidence that led to the investigation, led to the interrogation, but again, not for grounds of determination.
I'd like to hear from the council whether they want to hear from.
I mean, I see both sides of it. I also feel like in this case, it might just be best to let everyone be able to speak what needs to be spoken. I would rather not silence people because I feel like that's going to cause more issues. But I also understand that it might not be totally pertinent to what we're trying to achieve here.
And I disagree. I don't think that anything that Mr. Hickok could bring up would be pertinent to this termination hearing. It's on paper and part of her record what had transpired prior to Steve coming on board. So I don't think there's anything that could be added by his testimony.
As narrow as that is, I think it has nothing to do with this particular discussion at this time.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so at this time, we will not allow you to call Officer Hickok.
Okay, well then I still have more questions. Thank you. So, sir, do you deny telling Mr. Hickok that you terminated Miss Escrow because of a Facebook post?
Yes, did not terminate her for a Facebook post that led to the investigation.
Okay. And you know who Mr. Hickok is, right?
Yes,
Okay. Who is Mr. Hickok?
he is a lieutenant with my department.
Okay. And you're saying he was the interim chief when this discipline was supposedly issued, right?
Yes,
Okay. Are you afraid that he's going to contradict your testimony here today?
not afraid of anything.
Okay. And you're not afraid of losing income? Is that right?
Disposable income? No, I'm not.
Okay. Did you ever tell Mr. Hickok about how much income you lost?
I believe so, yes.
Why did you tell him to?
I don't know how it was brought up. I don't remember. I don't recall.
Okay, do you think Mr. Hickok would remember?
I don't know, maybe.
Why did you tell him at that time?
I just answered, I don't recall what was brought up during our meeting.
I'm sorry. I thought I asked where the last question. So where were you when you brought this issue up?
It was actually in this council chambers room with a meeting between myself, Lieutenant Hickok and Patty Bajorklin.
Okay, that's the city administrator, right?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that meeting?
We'll have us come together and try to be all on the same page and make sure the department is operating at a good level
Okay, and you didn't threaten to terminate anybody at that meeting?
at all.
Okay. Now, did Mr. Jansen rather, tell you that these comments were disparaging to the city?
I have to refresh my recollection with my report here.
Sure.
I don't recall if he did or not.
Okay. How many people there in the audience are members of your police department?
3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay,
I'm sorry, 7.
7. Okay. Do you believe they're standing there in support of Miss Escrow or something else?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, is it your testimony that Miss Escrow was raising her voice during the interrogation?
He slightly elevated it, yes.
Okay. And was that in itself a work rule violation?
No,
No, okay. So when you say insubordination here, are you able to identify what action Miss Escrow supposedly did that was insubordinate?
she left and she left her work. She just left for the day. She didn't finish the work that she was doing.
Okay, and by left for the day, that means taking some steps towards your direction, and then after you saying you're terminated, right?
I asked if she was leaving and she said she was leaving and then said I'll be hearing from her attorney.
Okay. Now, tell us how she refused to obey a legitimate order from a supervisor.
She didn't go back to her desk to finish her work.
Okay, and you ordered her to go back to her desk and finish her work, is that right?
Told her to go back to her desk and I believe it was finish her duties or something to that effect.
Okay. And did you observe, in those 2 minutes, did you observe her not doing those duties?
I observed her shut her light off and gather some belongings, and then I asked again, are you leaving? She said she's leaving and you'll be hearing from my attorney. So I assumed that she was leaving for the day.
So you asked her twice, leaving for the day now, is that right?
Well, leaving.
Okay. Well, is leaving for the day, when people leave for the day, does that mean they quit or something else?
Well, you'd have to ask her what she believed. I mean, I believe that she was leaving.
Okay, do you have any problem with us asking her?
I don't have a problem.
Are you afraid of her testifying here?
Not at all.
Okay. Can you explain to us how her behavior was insulting towards a superior?
She interrupted me lots of times and some of her body language was insulting. But those were just the basis as for all this stuff from the posts was a basis for the investigation.
Okay, and the stuff in the post here, let's just talk about that. Because those didn't offend you, right?
Not at all.
So how did they insult you?
Not at all.
Okay, so it's just her, but then why did you mention those posts when we're talking here about insulting behavior to a superior officer?
Those were reasons why, because it disparages the department. So that's why I wanted to talk to her about. Personally, it doesn't bother me.
Maybe I misunderstood you so far. I hear you saying, and we'll just pause here for a second. Part of her insulting behavior was interrupting you. Did I miss that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you tell her in the video, because I couldn't hear all of it, so maybe you can tell me, did you tell her not to interrupt you at any time?
I did not.
Did you tell her if you interrupt me again, I'll discipline you?
I did not.
Okay. How about, did you say your body language is unacceptable? I didn't hear that. Did you hear that?
Excuse me?
Did you tell her that her body language was insulting you at any time?
I did not.
Okay. Did you tell her that you were going to discipline her based on her body language at any time?
I did not.
Okay. But then again, now in the question that I asked you before, you also then mentioned the Facebook post. Why did you mention that Facebook post in your answer about insulting behavior towards a superior?
Because there's a totality of circumstances with the reasons why I was talking to her and her correlation, connecting the dots of her and associating with, I don't want to say associating with being able to enable someone to disparage the department. And she had a part of that.
Okay, but you didn't know that then, and you still don't know that now, right?
I do not know.
Okay. And just to be clear, did her body language, did that somehow amplify the Facebook post?
I don't know how you want me to answer that.
Well, that means that her body language make the Facebook post any more insulting, any less disparaging to the city?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Did her comments, did her interrupting you, did that amplify the Facebook post in any way?
Not that, but her support of it kind of it looked like she was a part of it.
Okay. And here it says unauthorized absence. Do you see that?
Yes,
Okay. Did you say anything like if you leave, you're going to get terminated?
I did not.
No, say you can't go. Did you say that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you tell her that she couldn't leave?
I did not tell her she could leave.
Okay. And again, you don't know if she was going to the bathroom or something else.
Well, she said she was leaving.
Okay.
So I believe she was leaving.
Right, but you earlier testified that you couldn't do that, right? You couldn't be sure that she wasn't going to the bathroom.
Well, she said she was leaving. I asked her if she was leaving and she said she was leaving. She shut her light off, gathered some stuff, and she said she was leaving, and you'll be hearing from my attorney. I don't know how else to interpret that if someone says they're leaving. She didn't say I'm going to the washroom. She didn't say leave me alone. She didn't say anything about she's upset. She said she's leaving. You'll be hearing from my attorney. I don't know.
Well, did you take any steps to find out what she meant?
I did not, no.
Okay, no, but you did say you're terminated, right?
I did.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. Maybe you can help me out. How did Miss Escrow make false statements concerning other employees, supervisors, or the city?
From our conversation, from me telling her about professionalism classes, and she put well, can't prove it if it was her or not. I guess you're right on that part. But she associated with the person who put the stuff in there.
Okay, but you don't have any proof that she associates with that person, right?
She took a photo and gave it to City Watcher. So yes, that she.
Did she testify that she handed that photo to City Watcher or otherwise gave it directly to City Watcher?
I believe during the interview, she said that she gave it to friends and posted it to or gave it to City Watcher. I would have to watch a video again. I
Post
want
it. Okay, and when you post a document, what do you understand that happens with that document?
Excuse me, what was that?
When somebody posts a document, is that generally available to the public or something else?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now,
photo as it related her to the City Watcher by giving the photo to City Watcher, and then correlated the post from before from a private conversation. So that's why the investigation was done, and that's why I believe that.
Well, you're taking these classes, aren't you?
Taking what classes?
You're taking classes, I guess, leadership. I don't know what you're taking some classes because you need, you are not up to speed on being a police chief, right?
I wouldn't say I'm not up to speed because it wasn't a requirement when I got the job. I'm
Taking classes for fun or for some other reason?
Currently, I'm not taking classes. I'm gonna be enrolled in taking some more classes pretty soon. And it's professional, or continuing education
Why are you involved in enrolling in those classes?
to better myself.
Okay, whose choice was that? Yours alone or somebody else's?
It was mine.
Okay, and nobody assisted you in making that choice?
No,
Okay,
it's just like any other chief is taking classes to better their professions. That's what I'm doing. Or I'm gonna be doing and have done in the past.
okay. And it's just one of those regular everyday activities, so regular that we started investigation based on anybody commenting on it. Is that right?
I don't understand your question.
Okay. Now, again, I don't think we've gotten the answer, and maybe that's because there isn't an answer, but let's find out. What statements, if any, did Miss Escrow make that were false?
I have to look at my report again real quick.
I'm sure we've got time.
Well, if I believe it was she didn't know who City Watcher is.
Okay, how do you know that's false?
I don't know 100% this is false, but she gave a private conversation I had with her, gave it to this person, and then again, several for the other post, she gave that post to this, so there is a connection. Again, clearly, she.
Okay, let's be clear on what your definition of false is. Maybe that's going to help us out. Do you believe false means that something is partially true?
False is it's not true.
Not true, completely untrue, right?
Depends on the I guess the statement or the situation. That could be for anything, I guess.
So there's sometimes when false can be partially true and sometimes when it's totally untrue, or what? Explain to me the sliding scale on falseness, please.
I guess it depends on the statement. Each situation would be different.
Is that based on your law enforcement training or something else?
Based on law enforcement training.
Okay. So just can you identify what shade of false Miss Escrow's statement, which you can't prove, is about her giving this post to City Watcher? Explain that for us, please.
Or the false, it's I don't understand your question.
Well, you said there's different kinds of falseness, right? Am I missing something?
No.
Okay, so explain what kind of falseness that because again, is it partially untrue? Is it totally untrue? What kind of untrue is it, sir, that Miss Escrow statements that she doesn't know who the county watcher is?
You have to ask her. I believe it's false. I believe she knows who it is.
Okay, so this is based on your belief, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did she make any malicious statements?
No.
Okay, and this is something I need to be clear on, because it's not just making false statements, right? This policy, and you know this because you've read all the policies, right?
Would say yes.
Okay, so it says make a false, and we're going to leave out the part or malicious, making a false statement concerning other employees, supervisors of the city. How is your contention that Miss Escrow says that she doesn't know who the county watcher is? How is that making a false statement concerning other employees?
Because if you give the post to somebody I believe it ties in here that she knew she knew who it was.
Okay, identify the city employee in your statement here, please, sir, other than Miss Escrow. Or maybe she's making a false statement about herself.
I don't know who the other person is.
Okay, and you also don't even know that that other person is a employee, right?
I do not know.
Okay, how about supervisors? Identify what that statement is false statement about a supervisor.
Well, if she's the one who said it, said that I lied on my resume and I had these skills, I don't remember having a conversation about that.
Okay. So now it's in addition to making statements about not knowing who the county watcher is, it's also making other statements, is that right?
That's to answer your question about the insulting behavior towards a supervisor. I believe that's the one that you quoted.
And who's the supervisor we're talking about?
That would be me.
That would be you, okay. And you don't care, right?
I don't.
Okay. How about the city? Can you explain how she's saying that she doesn't know who the county watcher is making a false statement about the city?
Could you repeat that question again, please?
Sure. Explain to me how Miss Escrow, and because you allege that she says that she doesn't know who the city watcher is, and you believe that that's not true, but you don't know. So I'm trying to understand if that's how that is making a false statement about the city.
I guess that's not making a false statement.
Okay. Same question, malicious statements, or maybe is it malicious? Is she making a malicious statement of any kind?
She never told me any malicious statements. No.
Okay. Because again, you didn't take it personally that there was Facebook posts about you, right?
That was true.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay. Now, how about this one? Explain to me how Miss Escrow failed to exercise good judgment.
Can I report real quick?
Of course. I mean, just to be clear here, you terminated her on the 11th of May, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's approximately 20 days ago, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you can't identify what her behavior was that linked to this statement that you wrote approximately 20 days ago, right?
I don't want to misspeak.
Okay, thanks for that. So now, have you had that chance?
No, because I was talking with you.
Okay.
Okay, to answer your questions, from our private conversation she gave to somebody who posted the statements, and then she also gave the other post to that same person. And it shows bad judgment on her associating with this person and possibly enabling this person by giving them false information or some to that effect.
Okay. Like, for example, that there's a closed session meeting. Is that the false kind of information you're talking about?
I would say probably about that the city of Ames should be outraged.
Okay. Like riling people up, that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Okay. So, exercise good judgment. Okay. Was she possibly being discourteous in dealing with fellow employees?
No, I don't say.
Was she being discourteous with the general public?
No.
Okay. So for 10.2 sub 4.4, the sum total of that one is failure to exercise good judgment, which is, again, you don't know, you just suspect that Miss Escrow gave information of publicly available to a private source, right?
Yes, it shows ill will towards the city.
Okay, but again, you don't know that that happened at all. You just merely suspect, right?
We had a conversation and it put on Facebook, so I suspect that, yes.
Okay. Let's look at employees are expected to conduct themselves at all times in a manner befitting their status, both as employees of the city of Amory and a member of their occupation or profession. Do you see that?
Which general order was that?
That's City of Amory Personnel Policy 14.1.
Let me find it on my page here. Okay, yes, I found
Great.
it here.
Explain to me how Miss Escrow violated City of Amory Personnel Policy 14.1.
Okay, I have a conversation and enabled somebody, or if she didn't do it herself, she gave it to somebody and twisted it and added falsehoods to it. And that
What's false?
reflects bad on the city.
I'm sorry, sir, because before I understood your testimony about falseness, because we went over that, I think, in 10.2 sub 39 in great detail there. So I'm surprised. I guess we'll have to go back there. But did you? My understanding was the only false statement that she made, that you alleged that she made, was saying that she didn't know who the county watcher was. Did I miss that?
That's what I said, and that's what I said.
Okay. So here there's some other kind of the conduct themselves at all times in a manner befitting their status. It's because you believe that there was some false information in the Facebook post. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Can you identify what information in that Facebook post is false?
That I lied on my resume and departments I'm sorry, from me going to my classes may lead to hours cut. That's false. If officers take continuing education, that doesn't lead to hours cut.
Do you know what the term may? Do you know what that indicates?
Excuse me, what the term?
Do you know what the word may? Does that indicate that something will happen or something that might possibly happen?
That could be possibly happening.
Okay. So, and again, we're going back to false. That my understanding of false, I know we don't agree on that, but my understanding of false is that something is false, it's entirely false. So when somebody says may lead to something, it also may not, right?
That is true.
Okay. Identify how that's a completely false statement.
I didn't say it was completely false. I mean, the thing is, by having a training budget, that there's no reason to say something like that, because that just riles people up.
Okay. If I were to come to your city and rile people up, are you going to arrest me?
No.
Okay. What if I come to the city and say that you lied on your resume? You going to arrest me?
Nope.
Why not?
That's your right to say that.
Okay. Are you going to start an investigation?
No.
Okay. What if Mr. Jensen brings to your attention that I say that you're lying on your resume? You going to start an investigation then?
No.
No. Okay. So people have to get riled up before you start an investigation? What's the threshold there?
Threshold would be if it came out of our department and it's a possible employee. If it's not a department employee or anybody has anything that has nothing to do with the city, then that's their right to say things.
Okay. And just help me understand, is there any time during Miss Escrow's working day that Miss Escrow would have, after Miss Escrow goes home, that she would have allowed to say that you lied on your resume?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Sure. Can Miss Escrow, while she was employed by the department, go home and post on Facebook that you lied on your resume?
Yes, people can say things, they can say what they want, but if it violates policies and stuff, well, then they'll be investigated. If it doesn't violate policy, then they don't get investigated.
Okay, so good. Let's just stick with the example that I'm talking about. She stays up late at night, who knows why? It's midnight, she's off of work. She says, you lied on your resume, post that to Facebook. What would be different about that scenario than what we have here?
She signed an employee handbook saying things that I believe in the handbook, it says that you're not allowed to disparage the city or say falsehoods or I believe it is insulting behavior towards the supervisor. So they, by signing that condition of employment, there's consequences, I guess, for saying things.
Okay.
People can say what they want.
But there's gonna be consequences, right?
Depending on the situation and what people sign when they're employed, yes.
Okay. But it doesn't even rise that far, right? Because there can be consequences. You don't even have to know that these things happen. You just have to suspect, right?
If a complaint was brought to my attention, I investigate it.
That's right. You investigate it, but you haven't been able to show us one of these work rule violations that you and nobody else wrote on this letter terminating Miss Escrow. You cannot identify anything for certain that she did on this document, except as you say, I say that she's leaving. And you weren't able to tell us, were you, that she was leaving for the day, going to the bathroom, or anything else? But you were able to tell us that you terminated it, right?
I was able to determine that she was leaving because she said she was leaving. She didn't say I'm leaving to go to the washroom. She didn't say I'm leaving for the day. She didn't say I'm leaving. She said I'm leaving and you'll be hearing from my attorney.
Okay. So you didn't hear her say she quit, and you have no evidence at all to substantiate any of these charges on this document, do you? You just merely suspect that she violated these work rules, don't you?
No, she left without her work. I didn't give her permission to leave. And
Okay.
she didn't obey the orders to stay and finish her work.
Okay, so again, you don't have any facts to support anything other than a suspicion that she made a false or malicious statement, right?
Regarding which
You wrote this letter, sir, not me. So this is 10.2 sub 39. You have no evidence. You only have suspicion that she made false or malicious statements concerning supervisors, right?
yes.
Yeah, you have no evidence. You only have suspicions that she acted insultingly towards a supervisor, right?
She enabled somebody to do that. Yeah, so she was part of it.
You suspect, you have no evidence that she enabled somebody to do that, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You also have no evidence that she failed to conduct herself in a manner befitting their status as an employee of the city of Amory. You only suspect that she didn't do that, right?
Yes.
Okay. You have no evidence that she failed to exercise discretion in regard to manners of official business and records, right? You only suspect that.
I suspect that, yes, with the totality of circumstances, all of this, yes.
Okay. Now let's go on to General Order 4.02. Okay, you know that one?
I'm finding it here. Yes, I have it.
Sure. What's a major infraction if you know?
Saying define it as a violation of rules, policies, procedure which discredits the department, threatens the department's integrity, adversely affects the department's efficiency, or adversely affects the employee's ability to perform their assignment.
Great. Is there anything that a major infraction allows you to do?
I don't understand your question. Could you rephrase?
Sure. If somebody commits a major infraction as opposed to a minor infraction, do you, for example, skip progressive discipline and go right to termination?
That is an option, yes.
Okay. Right, and the handbook, I suppose, specifically states that a major infraction is one that can, progressive discipline can be jumped, right?
Yes, it discredits the police department or the integrity of the police department.
Right, and you have no evidence, you only suspect that Ms. Escrow committed a major infraction by supposedly discrediting the department, right?
I suspect from all of the evidence, yes.
Okay. Now, other than all the members of the police department who and Miss Escrow, who else did you tell that you were taking classes?
I said, I believe it was at the committee of the whole that I said I was taking supervisor stuff. I believe something to that. If I have to look at my report.
Okay, who else did you talk to about this subject?
I don't recall.
Oh, well, that's pretty important, isn't it?
If you say so, I guess. I don't know.
Well, let me explain to you why, and maybe you can tell me if you agree with me. It's extremely important because if you don't recall whether or not you've told anybody else, you can't be certain that the only person you've told is Miss Escrow, and therefore Miss Escrow is likely to have told this other person, right?
I would guess. I don't remember every single conversation I have with everybody.
Okay, well, you'll agree with me that that's necessary for your logic that underpins your termination of Miss Escrow, right?
Actually, that was the reasons why I investigated.
Because you didn't remember if you had told anybody else, right?
I guess I don't understand.
You keep saying totality of the evidence, right?
Yes,
And part of that totality of the evidence is your assumption that you told Miss Escrow something, that she was the only person that you told, and therefore if somebody else used similar words, therefore Miss Escrow must have been the source.
if I use the exact word professionalism classes to her, that's why I assumed that, yes.
Right. And you assume that, but you didn't tell us until now that you don't know whether or not you've told anybody else that, right?
I don't remember you asking me if I told anybody else or had a
Okay.
conversation with anybody else.
So you led us all to believe that the only way that Miss Escrow, or sorry, the county watcher could have gotten this information was from Miss Escrow. But in reality, you don't know that because you don't recall whether or not you told anybody else.
All right, if you look at it that way, I guess, but I use those specific words with Miss Escrow.
Do you have any reason to doubt Aristotelian logic?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase that, please?
Sure. Do you believe that logic is a basis of understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So, and again, you'll also agree with me that your totality of the circumstances is based on the logic that because you told Miss Escrow something, and that similar, if not the same words appeared somewhere else, that it was only Miss Escrow who could have said that. Isn't that your logical determination, sir?
I would say yes.
Right. But now, because you've admitted that you don't know whether or not you told anybody else, that logic's out the door, right?
If that's what you think, then I guess.
Right. Okay. So now I'll save everybody the trouble of going through all of the policies. Because for every one of those in which you say there was a statement that Miss Escrow made and you suspect it to somebody else, it's even less than suspect. You have no way of proving, and you never will have any way of proving that Miss Escrow was the one who communicated this this information to that created this Facebook post, right?
Oh, I can assume that she did because we had that private conversation.
So we're all here today on an assumption, right?
No. That's the
Right,
reason.
right, because you don't know whether or not you told anybody else. You don't know whether or not there's another source, right?
I don't know.
No. So you'll admit that you're wasted everybody's time on that, right?
I'm not wasting anybody's time. I was given an investigation, or I was given a complaint, and I investigated it.
Right, you did more than investigate, right?
Investigated it
You terminated Miss Escrow, right?
based on insubordination.
Okay, and now you didn't sign your name to this May 15th letter to Bethany Escrow, telling her that you terminated her, right?
I have to find that. I don't believe, I don't know if I did or not. If my signature is on it, it should be on that.
The one in front of you is your signature on?
I don't know. Do I have to, yeah. No, my signature is not on that.
Are you willing to sign it today now in front of everybody?
Yes,
Okay. Even though you don't know whether the statements on that document are true?
I believe that with the totality of the circumstances, it leads me to believe that she did those.
Okay. Do you believe that as a police chief, you are going to be able to sign documents going that for a court after today's testimony?
I can sign documents, yes.
Do you believe the court is going to believe you after your testimony here today?
Yes,
Okay. Because again, you didn't sign this document, but you're willing to sign this document that contains false statements made by you, right?
not false statements.
Well, you don't know whether or not Miss Escrow made a false statement, and you never have known that, right?
I assume that, yes.
Right. So if you were to sign your name to this document, that would be false, wouldn't it?
No, because I believe it's the totality of circumstances that she did those.
All you have left, sir, is a video camera of Miss Escrow taking a picture of a public document in a public place. Isn't that right?
That's one aspect of the evidence,
What else you got left?
that she correlated and enabled this person, the city watcher, and
You've admitted that you can't sustain that. And you've admitted it several times, haven't you?
I guess so.
I guess so. So if you were to sign your name to this document, how is a circuit court supposed to believe any affidavit probable cause statement that you would sign in the future?
That would be up to the court.
It would be up to that court, wouldn't it? And it would be up to any defendant charged by your police department All they would have to do is show you this document here, this video here to that circuit court to undermine your credibility, wouldn't they?
They could do what they want with it.
Right, they sure could. Don't you think that's gonna be pretty expensive for the city of Amory going forward?
I have no idea what regarding any of that.
Well, don't you think the people of the city of Amory should have a police chief who can sign his name to documents that are 100% true?
Believe so.
Okay. Why doesn't the city of Amory have such a police chief, if you know?
You'd have to ask somebody else that.
I'm gonna interrupt here. He's made his point. All he's doing is badgering the police chief.
Oh, okay. Well, if you give me a brief second here, I'll consult with my client and maybe we'll be done here.
Keep attacking my witness, then I think we should save that for a different time.
I'll keep that in mind for future reference. I'll be right back.
But ultimately, you can decide.
That's,
Make that determination.
no.
So is there anything that you would like to cross with?
There's some rebuttal I would like to make, just because I think a lot of confusion was just created, a lot of false statements have been made about the testimony that was given. And to be honest, I think the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment have been used pretty loosely in the last hour. I'd like to have some clarifying discussion about what the First Amendment allows people to do, but doesn't keep you from the consequences of your statements. I suppose while he's out, I mean, the First Amendment, as we all know, protects your freedom of speech to talk out against government, right? And I think we can all agree on it. We also know that there are severe regulations and restrictions on the First Amendment. If I stand up at a crowded theater and yell fire, we all know that one, right? I go to jail for that. Well, that's just my freedom of speech, right? Okay, so we acknowledge that there's restrictions on that. And most of those restrictions come through employment conditions. All the time, we sign contracts with their employers that for confidential information, I can't share that with anybody. Well, wait a minute, that's an infringement on my First Amendment, right? But I signed a contract saying I wouldn't do that. So that's a breach of contract issue. You have an employee handbook. I have newsflash, folks, in the employment law world, an employment handbook generally counts as an employment contract. Doesn't make you a contracted employee, but you agreed certain behaviors. When you sign that employee handbook and then you violate terms of that employee handbook, I'm sorry, but you waived your right to the First Amendment on some of the speech you're going to be involved with if it's disparaging against the police department or the city as your employers. That's the way that works. That's a restriction on your First Amendment. So in regards to the First Amendment violations of that, I think we're just misconstruing what the First Amendment protects and what it doesn't protect. I also like to just, well, in terms of cross-examination, if Attorney Hitchcock's now rejoining us, I don't know how the council is going to allow him, whether you're going to allow him to continue or I can proceed with cross-examination. How do you guys want to proceed now?
It was cross.
Thanks for allowing me. We are.
Excuse me, I did not allow you to leave. You just said I'm leaving. So we proceeded on to the next phase. I'd like to hear from the council to the question that was asked of us.
I'd like to proceed to cross-examination.
Rebuttal.
Rebuttal.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree. I'd like to hear your rebuttal.
Okay, I just have a few questions on rebuttal. So Chief Hansel. In order,
Can you stand up at the podium? Sorry, so we can make sure you're on mic.
Thank you for reminding me, it's getting late. Your understanding of the employee handbook, your understanding of the police code, all of the administrative rules you have at your disposal as the police chief. In order for disciplinary action to either be a reprimand or a termination, is that in your purview as the supervisor? Do you get to determine what action is taken?
Yes.
And does a person have to have multiple infractions before that, or could it be one infraction that leads to a termination?
Would be one infraction.
So in other words, you wouldn't have to sit here and prove every element of everything that you were investigating of Miss Escrow in order to terminate her. Is that correct?
Yes,
You just need a violation of one of those things. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. And a lot was made up of these classes. I just want to clarify for the record, you are required as a police officer to go to certain number of classes per year.
So many hours, yes.
So many hours. So this wasn't like I want to better myself in a frivolous way. This is a requirement of your job.
Well, it's any classes that you take that's continuing education for police issues. So it could be any class regarding your employment. It's not like a specific certain things. There's some training that you have to do, like pursuit training and firearms qualifications and stuff like that. But other stuff, as long as you get your hours and it counts towards your requirement for 24 hours.
As a police chief, leadership would make sense.
For any law enforcement officer, any of them, from an officer to a chief to everything in between.
Fair enough. And then a hypothetical was raised, and I just want to revisit that. Attorney Hitchcock said, if I were to come to your town and rile people up, would you investigate me? If I came and accused you of lying on your resume, would you investigate me? I think we need to draw an important distinction here. We're not just talking about John Q. Citizen. We're talking about an employee of the police department. Is there a difference there between who you would investigate for making those comments and who you wouldn't investigate for making those comments? What is that distinction?
Person's an employee or not?
That has to do with disparaging you as an employer.
Yes.
Is that what she agreed to in the employee handbook?
Yes.
And again, I just want to clarify too, that was just grounds for the investigation. That didn't lead to the termination.
That is true.
Anytime you're conducting an investigation, you're working under suspicion, correct?
Yes.
If you knew it for a fact, would you need to investigate it?
You'd still investigate to support, gather evidence to support your conclusion.
Is it fair to say when any investigation begins solely on a suspicion that someone may have been involved in something?
Yes.
And then you let the facts that you determine in your investigation lead you to an outcome?
Yes.
And in this investigation, had you come to an outcome yet?
Like when I first got it, or?
No, in terms of the Facebook posts, who the City Watch is and who was leaking information to the City Watch, did you ever come to a determination in that investigation?
I did not.
Was it until Ms. Escrow was terminated, was that a continuing investigation?
It was continuing.
Do you believe you would have interviewed other people?
I believe I would have.
In those interviews, you believe that you would have given more information to who the City Watcher is?
Probably not.
Okay. But it was your goal. That was the hope. What time of day was it when Miss Escrow left? Or stated to you, I'm leaving?
It was near what? 12, maybe almost 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
And when's the end of the day?
4:30.
Okay, so this would have been 4.5 hours before the end of her shift.
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't like she just left early, left in the middle of the day. To your knowledge, within the handbook, within the City of Emory Police Department police rules, is there anything that requires you to give an employee a warning before you escalate to termination?
There's no.
I just want to be 100% clear on this. You had a department meeting where you discussed with the department that you were taking leadership classes. Is that correct?
There's our staff meeting.
Staff meeting, thank you. And then in the private conversation with Ms. Escrow, you used the term professional classes.
Professionalism classes, yes.
And we understand you can't recall every conversation you've had with everybody for last month and whether you may have used that term with somebody else or not. But let me phrase this question to you this way. If the Facebook post had talked about the police chief taking leadership classes, would you have isolated Ms. Escrow?
No.
Because the use of the term professional classes was used. Is that why you immediately were led to Miss Escrow?
Yes,
In fact, what is the name of the class? Is it a professional class? Is it a leadership class?
supervision of police personnel.
Okay, so if someone were to try and, in Miss Escrow's words, I can't remember exactly what she said, but if someone were to figure this out for themselves, something along those lines, they could look at the Northwestern University site of the class you were offered. They could go to the staff meeting. Perhaps it's somewhere in meeting minutes, but nowhere there would the term professional classes be used.
Professionalism classes, no.
Did you terminate Miss Escrow because she took a picture?
No.
Did you terminate Miss Escrow because she left in the middle of a shift?
Yes,
Is it that simple?
it's that simple.
And that's all I have for rebuttal of my witness.
Great. I just have one question there, which is, do members of the police departments, do they get lunch?
Yes,
Okay. Is there a set time for lunch?
no,
No. Okay. So Miss Astro could have been leaving for lunch, right?
you'd have to ask her that. She said, I'm leaving and you'll be hearing from my lawyer.
Okay. And do you know generally when Miss Astro would take lunch?
I don't know. Depends on when she's hungry. Depends on what she had for breakfast. If she had breakfast or not. There's times when I eat at 2 o'clock. There's times when I eat at 10:30.
How about Miss Astro? Does she have a varying time throughout the day?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we've heard from Miss Escrow's attorney and heard from Police Chief Hickok. I'm sorry, not Hickok, Heinzel. So does the council have any further questions or do we need more information?
I don't think we need any more information. It's right there.
Okay.
Do we need to give Ms. Escrow the opportunity to speak before we close, or?
That's up to us.
It is her hearing, that's why I'm curious. But
And I'm not sure if her attorney was speaking on her behalf or Miss Escrow wanted to also.
We'd just like to have closing statements, so I don't think that's very long. I know we'd all like to go home, so I don't think we're interested in having anything very long, but I would like to summarize this testimony that we have here.
Okay, so we'll take closing statements.
Great. So I assume it's their burden, so I'll go first if you don't mind. My understanding of the testimony here, and I am a constitutional law attorney. So you may or may not take it from me, but what I heard here was an admission of both violation of Miss Escrow's First Amendment and Fifth Amendment rights. There's absolutely no question that she has a right to make statements, be they disparaging or otherwise, against the city of Amory. And that if the city of Amory terminates her because of those statements that she makes off the clock, so even if she was the county watcher, even if she takes a picture, but this is all that we have, is that she merely took a picture of a public document. That's protected free speech. If Miss Escrow is terminated, her free speech rights will be violated. We also heard this gentleman testify that there's a work rule that he gave her this document that ordered her to testify. And we also saw that this interrogation was custodial in nature. Not just because it happened in a closed door room of an interrogation. There's a reason why police tell suspects that they're free to leave. We didn't hear that. There's a reason why police leave doors open. There's also a reason why police officers take classes, possibly those who don't know that. One of those reasons that police officers who are well-trained leave the doors open to interrogation rooms is because if it's not a custodial interrogation, the suspect needs to be free to leave. Now, that matters, but what matters even more, again, is that there is a work rule that is in place that is ordering her to tell the truth under fear of termination. Once Mr. Hainsel put that document down, that invoked Ms. Escrow's Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. Mr. Hainsel had one of two choices. He could have used that body cam that was coerced, that coerced testimony, to further his investigation, or he could have used it for disciplinary purposes, but he couldn't have done it for both. That's the law. That's called Garrity is the federal case, Odson is the state case. I'm just in the appeals court on that issue right now, just for example, so maybe it's on my mind. I'm sure it'll be on my mind a lot further if this termination is confirmed. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more chance for a lot more testimony from all sorts of people on this issue, because again, Miss Escrow, and it looks like there's a conspiracy here between the clerk, Mr. Jansen, and the police chief here to violate my client's constitutional rights. And we also have evidence that this gentleman is losing a substantial amount of money. We have evidence that my client participated in making an excess complaint, parts of which caused this gentleman to lose a lot of money. Now, we've heard, and everybody in this room has heard him say, that doesn't bother him. Now, we all know that's false. Everybody here, everybody at that podium, everybody watching this on YouTube, who will be watching this on YouTube, everybody in the stand there today knows that that's a false statement. It's just one of many. And that's really where the crux of where we are at right now is, and this is, you go further and further and further down this road every time. We send you a letter, and here we are 3 weeks later, and there's retaliation. You all got a copy of it. Mr. Hainsel got a copy of my letter. It specifically went through First Amendment issues and First Amendment retaliation. Now look out in the stands there, you're going to see much of the police department sitting with Miss Escrow. That's not a mistake. I'm going to guess that the officers who are here, even though they're under fear of retaliation, are here because they want the kind of police department that follows the law. Because if you can't follow the law when even terminating an employee, how can you follow the law when prosecuting crime? I submit this gentleman here is already cooked. And that's because Brady is going to arise every time he's called to testify in the future. He couldn't keep his story straight from 1 minute to the next. First, something was false for one reason, then it was false for another reason, and then lo and behold, the whole argument, the whole logic underpinning this entire letter, he admits he did not know, he does not know today. And I'm sorry these facts are inconvenient. And I understand that the same people who are judging this issue are the same people who put this police chief in place. And they're same people who are answerable to the citizens of the city of Amory for both this decision here and the decision to hire this police chief, who again had no management experience of any kind. He was a police officer from the city of Milwaukee. Okay. You guys made your choice. That's a political choice. You're sticking with it. The problem is that you're allowing multiple violations of the law to occur, and you're not doing anything about it. You didn't do anything the first time. And so what happens? He goes and writes a false statement, and it's false because he can't sign his name to this document. He didn't do it. He could have, didn't do it. And why do people sign documents? To tell the world that I agree with everything in this letter and it's true. That's why we sign documents. But under cross-examination, which is the right Miss Escrow had, he couldn't back up the statements that he didn't even bother to sign his name to. He couldn't. False. There's nothing false about with Miss Escrow, even under his best allegation. Even if you assume everything that he says is true, he can't support the charges. He got mad. It's obvious. I mean, 8, 9, 10 charges, and he can't work rule violations. He can't even identify coherently what they are. That's the purpose of this hearing, and he failed. He stood up before the entire town of Amory, the entire city, excuse me, and he couldn't put truth to the paper that he didn't even sign. False statements, not even close. And he can't even back up the fact that she does not say in that video, I'm leaving, you'll hear from my attorney. I watched that video just like you did. She doesn't say anything. I couldn't hear the words she said, but there is no way that she said anything like 3 words. You'll hear from my attorney. You can't say that she's even mouths anything like that. That's a false statement by this gentleman who had how many times, he can't remember how many times, but he had enough time to review this document. And again, this isn't a kindergarten. This is the chief of police who's signing a name to a document. There's no whoopsies here. There's not, I put in 7 charges, but I really only meant to fire her because she was leaving. And you all know that. You know that no judge is going to allow a decision based on testimony like that. He admitted that he has no basis to decide. They tried to go over, rehabilitate him. You can't do it. If you don't remember every conversation, or if you can't sit here and state under oath that you don't remember, if you told who else you might have told this to, then you can't say it could only have come from Bethany Escrow. And you can be unhappy about that all day long, but that doesn't change the fact. So every time he said totality, you have to take that, not with a grain of salt, you have to assume it's false. Because if you don't, a judge or somebody else is going to come in here and look and say, what's going on at Amory? Why is it that they're accepting this testimony that's obviously false? And again, any way we go from today, This gentleman has got a Brady problem. The city of Amory has a Brady problem because you can't swear to something if you can't tell the truth consistently. And that's all a police officer has, is telling the truth. They ask questions and they testify. That's what they do. And this gentleman is upset. This court clerk is upset that these are so-called disparaging remarks. Well, I encourage you all to read your Garcetti. That's a Supreme Court case that explains this rule quite clearly. I'm confident in it, but hey, I'm just a constitutional attorney. It's what I do. Now, this gentleman here, he isn't. No harm in that. Most people aren't. But he should have done his job. He doesn't even have the training to do his job, to do an investigation.
Who are you referring to?
I submit, excuse me here, to tell the truth. I'm sorry, is there somebody speaking?
Yeah, I just, who are you referring to in this moment, saying he's not qualified to do his job?
That's the police chief, Mr. Hansel, who's taking classes here, who can't conduct an interview without violating the Fifth Amendment, whose entire interview is based on his personal feelings being hurt, and by the way, violates the First Amendment, and Garcetti. These aren't complicated issues. And I know they arise down here more often in Milwaukee. And you'd think a police officer from Milwaukee, who's had to pay out, the city of Milwaukee's had to pay out on these issues time and time again, might have known something about it. For example, if he had actually done an interrogation at the city of Milwaukee, he would have known about about Garrity. But he didn't. So, when we talk about plain and simple, what's simple here is Miss Escrow's rights have been violated. What's simple here is we've got him saying this under oath. What's simple here is he can't keep a straight story. What's simple here is go ahead and arrest me in the city of Amory. All you got to do is show the judge, hey, this police department can't keep a straight story. Judge, you got to let me out. You can't believe their affidavits. This guy's got a Brady problem from now on. And that's what's going to have to happen, is every time this gentleman files an affidavit going forward, he's going to have to put in a note there saying, see this document. And he's going to have to give it over to the other side as exculpatory evidence every time because of Brady. Because he got upset and his feelings were hurt. So I'm going to lay off of the baby now for a little bit. We're going to focus on who did her job. And I submit to you that Miss Escrow did her job. Because working for the police department is more than just showing up. It's being a good citizen. And I'm sorry, your feelings are hurt, but it's free speech. The antidote, the response to free speech in America, and you see that flag over there, this is America, is more free speech. Not censorship, not punishment. This is America. People fought and died for these principles, not because they're a joke, but because we have freedoms that distinguish us from the rest of the world. And if you want to have a society like North Korea, all it takes is to terminate people for allegedly disparaging the city of Amory. Because we all know whose feelings really got hurt. And that's not a fireable offense, and it never has been. In fact, what we have here is not only a lawsuit, it's possibly the end of this man's ability to ever testify again. So he wasted our time because he cannot prove anything and has not proved anything else, then he can't successfully tell the truth. There's a reason he didn't sign his name to these charges, and it's plain. He admits that he doesn't know. He admits that there's other possibilities. He admits that there's nothing false. It all boils down to his feelings are hurt, and we all know it. I thank you for your time.
Okay. So that was a lot, right? We got kind of a saying in the practice of law, and you probably all heard this before, when the facts are on your side, you argue the facts. When the law is on your side, you argue the law. And when neither's on your side, you pound the desk. We just spent the last 2 hours listening to a lot of pounding on the desk. There's a reason why the plaintiff's arguments are confusing. That's intentional. When you have a clear case and it's simple and it's straightforward, that someone said, I'm leaving in the middle of the day, you'll hear from my lawyer, not just walking out the door and going to the bathroom. Act up the purse. You see it in the video. But you see, if you look closer in that video, if you can get a little closer to it, and we can make the video available, it's an open record, you just have it. She grabs her lunch. She packs up 2 things. It's a Tupperware thing. She puts it in her purse, shuts off her light. She's leaving. She's not going to the bathroom. Everybody in this room goes to the bathroom. How many times a day? You grab all your stuff when you go to the office bathroom. Maybe you grab your purse. I don't know. My wallet's always in my pockets, which is with me, but you don't shut off your light. You don't grab your lunch to go to the bathroom. The heck are you going to do with your lunch in the bathroom? So listen, we don't need to overcomplicate this. We know what happened that day. That's why the termination occurred. What we've heard now for the last, during these closing arguments, what we heard? We heard conjecture, we heard bullying, we heard attacking, name calling, all towards our police chief. We didn't hear much of anything about Miss Escrow. Why? I'll tell you why. Because they don't have a case. Their case is to make our case look confusing and unsure. And, well, did you know that? Do you remember what you said 6 weeks ago to that guy on the traffic corner? No, who here could possibly recall every conversation they've had with everyone they've ever talked to? You would recall using specific language with someone if it showed up in a post about you a few weeks later. That's not unreasonable to believe. That's clear. But you don't want to have that be evidence that you're stuck with. So you're going to confuse the hell out of it by asking 15 different questions, going all over the place about the code, mischaracterizing evidence, misstating evidence, stating evidence that's not actually in the record from tonight's hearing. That's what we just heard in that closing argument. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm not here to ramble us up in Fifth Amendment, which, by the way, Fifth Amendment applies to criminal proceedings. Through his own questioning, Attorney Hitchcock made it clear that this wasn't a criminal proceeding. This is an employment proceeding. It was an employment investigation. Fifth Amendment applies to criminal searches and seizures. Your criminal right to not incriminate yourself, your rights to not incriminate yourself in a criminal proceeding, not an employment hearing. Through the testimony, the interrogation room was only used out of convenience and for sake of privacy. They don't have an office space where there's a conference room. They got an interrogation room. It's a police department. Another thing that was misstated. Disposable income is the term that the police chief used for the amount of money he lost as a result of his wife's income. He didn't say a substantial amount. He didn't say he was upset about that. All he did say was he didn't care. Disposable income. He didn't say anything substantial. He's not angry about this. He's not out to get any revenge on this, yet that's how he's being characterized. but that's not in the evidence. That's not what the testimony said. Signing a document. This is an oversight. He doesn't deny drafting the letter. He said right here today on testimony, he would sign it. He's not running from standing behind his testimony. He's an error in signing something, but he acknowledges he wrote the letter. As an attorney, I tell you, we submit things to the court to say electronically signed by me every day of the week. I don't remember the last time I signed something that I submitted to the court. Electronically signed, not signed, he drafted it. He's not hiding behind it. By the way, it wasn't an affidavit. It's not a sworn statement. It's an employment letter. He had to inform her why she was terminated. That's all that was. Let's not make more out of it than he's trying to make out of this. It's simple. He had an obligation to tell her why she was terminated. That's what that letter achieves. He doesn't have to prove each and every element of every of the allegations that were made against her. She could be terminated for any one of those reasons. And we know now after testimony why. It was insubordination. It was unexcused absence. She left in the middle of the day. Ask yourselves, you all have jobs. You got up in the middle of the day and told your boss, I'm leaving. You'll hear from my lawyer. Come on, we're reasonable people. What would you think that meant? You think I'm going to lunch? Jesus, if I said you'll hear from my lawyer every time I got up to leave the office, you all would think I was crazy or quitting or should be fired. I mean, let's come on, we're laughing, but let's be reasonable. That's what happened. We know what happened there that day. Okay. Totality of the circumstances. In legal speak, this means something to us, right? If I walk in and I see a dead body on the ground and someone holding a gun, smoking a gun, with a smoking gun, I don't need a totality of the circumstances argument. I've got evidence. I've got clear, convincing evidence. Totality of the circumstances is when a person shows up at an event, something happens at an event, you find out a year later, a year ago, that person was involved in a similar event. They just happened to be at this time where this event occurred. That's not enough grounds to convict somebody. That's enough grounds to start an investigation on somebody. So let's think about this. You had a prior reprimand for a Facebook post. Now, we're not saying that prior Facebook post that Ms. Escrow was involved with before was a disparaging comment. From what I understand from when we looked at it, is she was answering city questions on a Facebook post on behalf of the city, which was not her authority or her role to do. And that's what it was. But she was trying to be helpful. It wasn't a negative thing. But on that Facebook post, the page itself, apologize, it's gossip or something around Amory is the name of the post. Well, you guys know what post I'm talking about. So you have that. Then you have the picture. We know she took the picture. Then that picture shows up on that same post by City Watch. And then we have the post about the professional classes. And we know that was only used with one person, at least within this building. Who knows if that's a word he used with his wife or not? Who knows? And who cares? We know that that's not what he said at the staff meeting, but it is what he said to her individually. When you put those three things together, there was grounds for an investigation. This was not a witch hunt. This was not a retaliation. Someone in his department, he believes, is out there disparaging the city of Amory and the police department. You all know this has been a rocky ride since the police chief got here in January. He's trying to calm the ship down. And this ship is not going to get calmed down if someone internally is constantly trying to undermine him. Now, he doesn't know if that's happening or not. He was doing an investigation. Now, I'll tell you this. What does it look like to you if I'm asking you questions about this activity on Facebook posts and you're being evasive and you don't want to answer the question and you keep repeating that it's it's a public comment, and you won't talk about who you share these things with? And then a minute later, you're packing up your bags and you're leaving. If the police chief had not come around the corner just to remind her that also includes text messages and emails, he wouldn't have known she was leaving. He just happened to come around. She came out of that interview room intent on walking out the door. Why? If she had nothing involved with City Watch, wouldn't you be more laughing about this? Wouldn't you be like, this is crazy? I don't know. Only she can say that, but she didn't testify here tonight. No questions were asked of her here tonight. Her attorney didn't present really any evidence on her behalf. All he did was attack your police chief.
That's outrageous. That's outrageous. We'd be happy to have her testify, but you wouldn't let us have anybody else testify. So let's get her up there and testify then. She's happy to testify. What are you talking about?
We're happy to cross-examine her if he wants to bring her up. I have tons of questions from
Yes, you do. But that's not what we said. You want Mr. Hickok to come on, we asked to have him on. You wouldn't let us do that.
No.
So
Is it
you're gonna play that we can only cross-examine, that's just fine. But don't sit here and pretend like you can have it both ways, sir, because that's outrageous.
I retract my
No,
statement.
you objected to having Mr. Hickok testify,
I did. Now,
and then you are saying that she should have testified. Well, you can't play both ways and say we can only cross-examine if you're gonna say that she should have testified. That's preposterous and it's abusive.
Say that. I said you didn't have her testify.
Right, you won't let us. You wouldn't let us have Mr. Hickok, did you?
Speak.
Uh-huh.
I asked if she wanted to speak before we went into closing.
Sure, for speak. That's testify. He didn't say speak, he said testify.
I'm sorry that I didn't use the legal jargon that you would have preferred. I'm not a lawyer.
Constitutional lawyer at that. Things are different down in Milwaukee. Up here, we have decorum. Up here, we treat each other with respect. We don't yell and bully each other. And we don't throw around how big time we are and what kind of lawyers we are. We just do our jobs. So I'm just going to wrap this up. You guys know what this is about. This was about a termination, an appeal of a termination. There is 3 hours of nonsense that got spewed around this room tonight, plain and simple. Person packed up to leave in the middle of the day. That is not acceptable at any employment. Oh, and let me part with this. Wisconsin's an at-will employer. Okay, he cited some case law. Let's cite some case law ourselves. Brockmeyer v. Dunn Bradstreet. An employer may discharge an employee for good cause, for no cause, or even cause morally wrong without they're thereby guilty of legal wrong. Now, that's some old legal jargon, but as an at-will employer, I don't really need a cause in the state of Wisconsin. I can't do it discriminatorily. I can't do it against public policy. But neither of those things happened here. She was terminated because she got up and walked out in the middle of the day. It's as easy as that. With that, we finish our comments. We appreciate everyone's time here this evening and allowing us to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. How would the council like to proceed?
What are the rules? I guess I don't know.
Well, we had closed session and Ms. Esco waived her right to a closed session, so we had an open session. We've heard testimony and opening and closing and testimony from both sides, and now it's up to us to decide, do we want to take action now, or do we want to well, I don't know that we can take action because it's not on the agenda to take action.
I think we need to discuss this further amongst ourselves.
I also think it's fair of us to ask for some time to digest everything that we've been given. This is 3 hours of information. I don't think that it's fair for us to make a choice about someone's livelihood without having time to think about all of the evidence that's been provided by both sides.
And I agree with that.
And then I guess I would entertain a motion for adjournment. Unless you have something.
What I would say is I think it would be best to put a date or a date out in the future that we have make this determination. Otherwise, it's just out there. I think we need to do this as soon as we can. I agree with a little bit of time, but I also think we need to put something out there so we move on it.
Right.
Well, we have a council meeting next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday,
That needs to be on our agenda.
the 7th.
Yeah. Okay.
With that, I'm fine.
With that, I have a clarifying question. So generally, when it comes to employment, these things are done in closed session. Because this was done in open session, is the expectation that that conversation happens in open session, or is it still something that happens in closed?
Ultimately, that would be at.
We'd like to have an open vote.
Okay, I agree with that. That's only fair.
Great.
Okay, so that'll be on the agenda then for June 7th. Okay. All right.
No, I don't think we're not trying to kick this down the road. We're just, I think we want to be respectful of the information we've received and the way it was presented.
I appreciate the time limits, and just speaking on behalf of Ms. Escrow, I think that this, the way you're planning to proceed is just fine.
I agree with this too, because I don't make any rash judgments right now. There's been a lot of information that's been brought forward to us today, this evening. And I would feel comfortable what everybody else agreed on, giving us some time to digest this.
And just, I know that this should go without saying, but I just want to reiterate that the council members are not allowed to talk to each other at all about this. So I just want to put that out there and make sure that we're not doing anything that we should not be doing.
Move to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. That's because there's no reruns on TV.